All right, everybody, here we go. Today is Thursday, June 25th, 2026. My name is Rob Carter. Welcome to the future. #1 radio/podcast in America. Communism versus fascism today, Isaiah. A lot
Oh,
of things to
yeah.
talk about. Here's what we're going to talk about today because we'll have Dr. Douglas Frank on at 10 o'clock to discuss elections. It's interesting. I have people that are aligned with me who do not really buy into what Dr. Frank is doing.
Really?
Yeah, and then I have people that are aligned with me that think he's fantastic. So we're going to ask him a lot of questions about the elections. We'll feel it all out. We're going to do a live stream event with him, I believe, on the 27th. Act for Missouri will be in. They're putting this on this conversation with election supposedly expert. I met him once. He seemed perfectly fine to me. I think he agrees with most of the ways elections are being stolen. So we'll talk to him today at 10. Then we'll have at 11 o'clock. We'll have Act for Missouri in. We'll talk about Amendment 4. I put something out on the social media that got a conversation going on about Amendment 4, which I'm trying to understand, and I have my own opinions on it. What is the legislative agenda moving forward for the GOP? What is it? You know, what do people want? What do conservatives want? What is the GOP? What are they trying to accomplish? I continue to ask the question, and I think we're going to have more and more people begin to ask the question, why is Jeffrey Winehouse still in prison? I know I beat it up, and I'm going to continue to beat it up until he's out of prison. How can a man that is demonstrably innocent spend 13 years in prison when he videotaped everything that happened and the testimony against him from the police is a lie and everybody knows it? I can't get over it. I can't get over why the Republican Party wouldn't take that easy win. There has to be a reason. Is it Freemasons? I had somebody reach out to me recently, Isaiah, and they said, Parson is a Freemason, Burleson is a Freemason, Kehoe is a Freemason. Are there more Masons in our government than we understand? And is there something going on behind the scenes, as Alex Newman said when he was on the show the other day? Is there more going on behind the scenes? Did Jeffrey Winehouse get too close to the problem? When I was talking to him from prison, I said, Jeffrey, why don't you, why don't we get a hold of Governor Kehoe and ask for clemency? You're innocent. And he said he won't do anything because he's a Mason. That was the first thing he said. And now I have people emailing me going, do you know how many Masons are in the state of Missouri that are in positions of power? I guess I'm finding this all out. I want to know what it means, what it represents, and I want to get to the bottom of it. So we'll continue to ask the question, why is Jeffrey Winehouse still in prison? When everybody knows, everybody who paid attention to the case, there's not one person who thinks the man is guilty. Not one. I haven't found a single person anywhere, even in government, to say, yeah, Rob, I've looked at it and you're right. Or you're wrong. This guy should be in prison.
This guy needs to be arrested.
Not one person who knows the case thinks that Jeffrey Winehouse should be in prison, and yet he still sits there. And I just asked the state of Missouri, how does the GOP, and we'll get Elad Gross on from the Democrats, we'll invite him back on because he's an attorney. How does the GOP expect to regain trust with factions of the Republican Party, conservatives and libertarians? How do you gain trust when everybody knows that an innocent man is put in prison? You're in control of the government in the state of Missouri and yet won't address his case. I just asked the questions. I want to start with communism versus fascism very quickly, though, because that seems to be the topic of the day. And before we go any further, Isaiah, can we like and share? Can we get everybody to listen to like and share? I think we're still on Facebook. We haven't gotten kicked off of Facebook recently. We're on X. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. I got to ask you very quickly because I want to get into the show. One of our advertisers said, Rob, there's a commercial for A5 every 5 minutes on your Rumble feed. And we have to remind people there's 2 ways to get clean versions of the show without any commercials. Number 1, you watch it live on any of the platforms and you're not going to get any commercials. So if you watch it live, no commercials. If you watch the rebroadcast, which now seems to be about 60 to 70% of the people that watch it whenever they want to watch it, right? That's what's going on. But if you watch a replay of the show and don't want commercials, whether it be on YouTube or Rumble, I prefer Rumble because it's just an easier, it's easier to get out your message on Rumble. They don't mess with you too much, but they do put in commercials. Yep. You just have to spend I think it's $5 a month. You have to buy a subscription, and then all the commercials go away. We do it for you. I was asking Isaiah, I said, can we do it? Apparently we cannot do it ourselves, but if you want commercial free on Rumble, you just have to pay the $5 a month and all the commercials go away. Or you can listen to it on Spotify, which is posted in the evening. So you download Spotify and you can go watch the show on Spotify commercial free in the evenings if you're watching.
Only if you subscribe to Spotify Premium.
Really?
Oh yeah. There will be ads. There will be Spotify ads.
See, I didn't realize that. When I watch
Yeah.
Spotify, I don't get a lot of commercials, but you're right. And now that I think about it, I do get commercials.
Yeah.
They're sporadic because
Yeah, they're
Rumble's like
less.
35 seconds.
Yeah, they're less than the video people,
And
thankfully.
this is the way the platforms work. This is I look at it like when you go on to the social media platforms, just think about it as it's a TV show on social media. When you're
Yep.
watching a TV show, whether you're watching Fox News or what have you, there's always going to be commercials to pay for the platform, right? So it's the same way with what we do. You're going to get commercials unless you pay your way out of the commerciality of the show. All right?
I mean, that's what I think. I subscribe to YouTube Premium. I think you subscribe to YouTube Premium for that reason, because we don't want the commercials. And this is, if anyone's wondering, this is how you can subscribe on Rumble down here. This little subscribe button. If you click that and you click subscribe, you can start filling everything out. It'll let you add a card there, and then you can subscribe to the channel. We do get part of the proceeds. We'll be completely transparent with you guys. So it does go partially to us, thankfully, which is nice. Because
where's that money coming? I haven't seen any money come in. Where's it go?
It's in we have a Rumble wallet somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can't be much, or I'd know about it.
No.
So
I think it's like maybe $100.
Isaiah?
Maybe $100.
You want to read that real fast? I believe this is sarcasm.
Oh, John cracks me up. He has the best comments every day. I look forward to it. I really do.
He's still not comfortable in his own skin.
When can we play golf with John? We all three got to play together.
Years and years of tail whipping in golf that has created this this
I almost spit up my coffee.
Personality where he's constantly giving me trouble on this particular show. Again, like and share. We really appreciate it when you like and share. We recognize who does it. We really appreciate it. We're building an infrastructure here. It's not easy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to recognize that the social media platforms aren't a lot different than when I got kicked off of all the social media platforms back in 2021. Yeah. It's very similar. It is exactly what and I don't want to complain. I'm not complaining. I'm just telling people, if you want to start a podcast, if you're trying to get information out to people, I'm just telling you my personal experience, endorsed by Dr. Shiva, who's told me exactly how the system works. When Elon Musk said freedom of reach, freedom of speech, not freedom of reach, that's what they mean, right? If they want to blow somebody up, or if you want to pay, we can pay $1,000 for an X commercial, and we get it out to 500,000 people if we want to pay $1,000.
Just like Amendment 5, Missouri Promise.
It all goes back to how much money you want to spend. And I guess that's just the free market. I guess that's the way it works. The more money you have, the more easy it is to get out a message. We're building it from a grassroots perspective. We're just going to nickel and dime our way through the process to get things out that we want to get out, and we'll leave it there. Okay. And now I want to get into this, Isaiah, because at 10 o'clock, we're going to bring in Dr. Douglas Frank. Again, we'll talk about Missouri Amendment 4. I'm starting to watch this conversation develop, and I have some strong opinions on Amendment 4. And I want to bring those to people's attention, bring that to everybody's attention today. But I want to talk about what's going on in the news today. I like to take on corporate narratives, what I would call people who don't understand how our system works. They get caught up in corporate narratives, and the corporate narrative of the day is you better watch out for Democrat socialism. This is the fear tactic. All right. They're going to come out. They're going to sell this to you, because what happens when you're not happy with your government has to create a red herring argument, right? It's not that it's not real. It's that there are two types of authoritarian government that we have to be concerned about. One is fascism and one is communism. They both lead to the same place. I talk about this lady all the time, Michelle, when she used to come on my show. She was from Russia. She came on the show multiple different times. She grew up in Russia. She came to the United States in 1989 after the fall of the Soviet Union. And she was a great resource for me because she told me what to look out for. You know, she was watching how the Soviet Union fell. She was watching what happened in the aftermath. Then she comes to the United States. She learns our system, and she started to explain the differences between the systems to me. And I started to ask, what do you see here in America? Is it communism or fascism? I couldn't get the sentence out of my mouth. And she said, Rob, it doesn't matter. Communism, Democrat socialism, if you will, and fascism are it's the same end meaning. It just is government control. You can control government through regulation and overseeing every industry. For example, let me just break it out, and then we'll show you where the conversation is going. I'll just give you the way I see the world. Do what you want with it. Okay. I'm just right about everything, Isaiah, as I think we already know that, but let me just explain
political genius,
of course, savant, if you will.
Savant. Yes.
If you look at communism, right? It means the state or the government owns the means of production. So they own the oil industry, right? They own the banking industry. They own the education industry. They own the farming industry. I would ask you right now, is it any different than what we're experiencing in America? Only we're doing it under the guise of freedom. For example, property taxes. I would assume that most Americans believe they own their own property. Do you own your own property? What happens if you have $1 million home and you don't pay property tax? What happens? Do you have to pay property tax? Are they going to mess with you? Is the state going to create problems for you if you don't pay property tax? The answer would be yes. So through a mechanism, they have control of your property. No different than if communists owned your land. It's no different. It's through regulation. How about the communication sources? We just talked about it. If a communist government wants to take over the media, why would that be any different than what we're under right now? You watch through COVID as Fox News and CNN and all of the other corporate news outlets sold you on a lie. Well, who benefited from the lie? The government benefited from the lie because they passed the CARES Act as a reaction to COVID and transferred $2 trillion out of your pocket. They said, Mr. Person, that we took your job away from you and killed your small business. Now what we want to do to fix it is to reach into your pocket, because you got to remember the government doesn't have money. It only gets its money from who? From you. So when they pass a $2 trillion bill, what they're saying is we're going to take $2 trillion from you and we're going to make you pay it back through interest rates and inflation. Does that make sense? Am I doing good so far? What about farmland?
Oh man.
Does it feel like if you want to get raw milk, can you get raw milk? If you want to grow marijuana and sell it in Missouri, do you have the same freedoms as the big monopolies that come in and do business with the government? Everything is controlled in our country now through the government. Everything is controlled through the government. What is the difference between Democrat socialism and fascism? What is the difference? How do you see it as being completely different? You have to remember that our government is not trusted anymore. The institutions are not trusted. The people running our government are not trusted. More and more young people are starting to recognize what is going on. They're beginning to freak out. They put on this happy, everything's great. Donald Trump says the economy is great. The war is going great. It's the boom town in America. All right. This is what
Dow's over 50,000. That's what Pam Bondi told us.
If you don't know, the Dow's over 50,000. Okay. So when you look at these things, I'm not saying that America isn't better than many other systems, but we do have the benefit of the strongest military in the world, and we get to print the money. So it does give us just a little bit of an advantage over other countries around the world. Do we all understand that? I think we do. All right. So I would not be so concerned about Democrat socialism as you're going to hear all of the conservatives talking about from now until forever. Because of what happened in New York with Mamdani, his endorsements all won. They're all far left. Now you're going to hear the right-wing propagandists or the people that just don't recognize what's going on within the system come out and scare you about Democrat socialism, when what you should be scared of right now is a tyrannical government that leans fascism. It leans fascism because big corporations make all the decisions. Look right here in Missouri. You've got the establishment in the state of Missouri coming out and going, we have to pass Amendment 4. We have to take out of state money. We got to take that ability for out of state, out of Missouri money to come in and influence votes that go into our Constitution, that affects our Constitution. At the same time, you've got an organization called Missouri Promise that, as I understand it, has put $1.9 million into promoting ads for A5, and Missouri Promise comes out of Delaware, and nobody knows who's behind the money. I would ask all of the people that are promoting A5, what is Missouri Promise? What do you say about $1.9 million coming in from Delaware to affect the election process in the state of Missouri? And how can you make the argument that you're going to stop out-of-state money from influencing votes that affect our Constitution when you're already promoting A5, which is getting $1.9 million from an organization that nobody has any idea about coming out of Delaware? Make it make sense. I'm just asking to make it make sense. I don't know what the answers are. But I do want to know what the answers are. I would like to know what the answers are.
And you want to know what the most recent donation is $1.5 million from Secure Missouri, which is a organization that we know nothing about, but their goal is to support Governor Kehoe's agenda. That's what the organization was founded for.
Right. And here's uh, that's a great statement.
That's great.
G, right? G, you mean this is one of our listeners. G, got it on the screen here. G, you mean all of the commies won in an election run by the commies? That's peculiar. I would ask you, I really want people to think about this. Authoritarianism is authoritarianism. It doesn't matter if it comes through regulation and fascism, where corporate control runs your state or runs your government. It is no different ultimately than communism. It just means centralized control of your life. It means you can either say the state owns it, which probably is a little bit more clean, right? You know that the state owns everything that you do. You kind of know what system you're in. And our system, as it is currently designed, the federal government basically has control of everything, including the states, right? They don't protect the elections. They don't protect your borders. They stick needles in your arm by mandate. They indoctrinate your kids. We have a society that doesn't know whether men should be able to use the women's bathroom. That's the society that we live in. Okay. So what I'm trying to describe to you is be smarter about the propaganda that the right is going to throw down your throat. They are in the same game together. They're in the same game. The right, the far right, fringe right, and the lunatic left continue to move our system in the same direction, which is more government control of your life. AI data centers, flock safety cameras, the ability to turn off your car with kill switches, 702 warrantless searches, control of the media outlets, control of the social media outlets, control of the newspapers, control of the information that you absorb. This is how the system is working. And they have to create a straw man argument. They have to do that. They have to say, we're the good guys. Be careful of Mondami. Be careful of him. Sure, we're $40 trillion in debt. Sure, we're in continual war. Sure, we leave the borders wide open and allow all of our supposed enemies to come into our land. Sure, we passed the Smith Modernization Act so we could propagandize you. But it's the other guy that's the problem. Don't recognize what we're doing. Don't recognize that China came in and bought up all our farmland. Don't recognize any of that. That's all. Don't pay any attention to that. Pay attention to the boogeyman that's around the corner, because they're coming to get you. And I submit to you, if you pay close enough attention and you just drop your conditioning for a minute and say, what, I just woke up today into the world, and let me look at the way it is under what I would call fascistic, Isaiah, fascistic rule versus what you're afraid of with communist rule. Okay. Notice those differences. And let me show you how they're going to play it out on the media. Right. Let me start with a history lesson. Can we start with a history lesson, Isaiah? Would that be fair?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right,
I was just going to mention this quick headline. Speaking of fascistic, is that I just saw this yesterday. Trump cancels housing affordability bill signing until the SAVE Act is passed.
Right.
So a bipartisan bill that would help people with affordability for housing, he's going to hold out because his agenda isn't getting done. So seems fascistic to me.
Well, we live in fascism. We live in a quasi-fascist society now. It's just that nobody recognizes it because, again, it's the drip, 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 drip. I guarantee you, if you were born in 1880, right, and then watched the power of your government in the year 2026, this society would be completely unrecognizable. And patriots that were living in 1880 would look at our society and say, man, what in the world did we allow to happen? How in the world did this take shape? All of that freedom where you felt free and you controlled your own destiny. Now you're conditioned into a system that that myself included, we don't know any better. This is the only life that we know. And we think it's good, despite the fact that there's, people committing suicide on a daily basis. We have men using women's bathrooms. We don't even know what our society is anymore. We talk about immigration, but I mean, there's so much immigration now that we don't even have a societal structure anymore. What traditions are left? When I was a kid, we were all off on Sunday so we could spend time with our families. Was that good for families? Was that good for society to have one day off where we could spend our time with our families? Was that good? I think it was good. And
what do you think about liquor stores being closed on Sundays?
Well, what about the big corporations that came in and said, let's just open everything up? Right. And then the people went, yeah, I want to be able to go to the grocery store on Sunday. Yeah, I want to go to Best Buy on Sunday. And everybody went, yeah, it's going to be great. Is that good for society? Is it good for society that mothers and fathers have to work to take care of their kids? Is that good for society? Right? It's not whether women should be able to work, I guess is the argument on the other side, but is it good for society that you have to do it that way, that you can't raise your kids? That most mothers don't have the ability to stay at home and raise their kids, or most fathers don't have the ability to stay at home and raise their kids because they're working 60 hours a week just to put food on the table and maybe put something away for retirement when they turn 80, if they live that long. It's, Obamacare. They took over the medical industry. They took over the insurance. They've taken over everything. And we're worried about communism. It's to me, it's kind of laughable, but again, this is just the way I see it.
Great comment from Dan here. Anyone else amazed of reflection pool arrests while zero of Epstein pedo group?
Again, these are distractions, right? These are narrative building distractions that catch people's attention, and there's a knee-jerk reaction to want to fight about things that don't improve your life. You have to fight about things that improve your life. And one of the things that we are all going to have to fight for is reclaiming our government, turning us back into a constitutional republic. And, there's not going to be a lot of people that join that fight, Isaiah. I think you and I both agree with that, right? You're going to get maybe 1%, 2%, 3% that will recognize it, have the ability to do something about it, care enough to be motivated to make change in your environment. Because if you don't, the next generation, if you take my grandkids or my great grandkids and you project out where the future is going to be in the year 2070, let's say, you're going to be in a complete authoritarian rule. And those kids will have never known what freedom is like. I believe Ronald Reagan once said that, right? He said, freedom will be lost and future generations will not even know what freedom looks like. And we're basically there now. How many people wake up whistling every day with this great creation of the earth, all of the natural resources, all the beauty of the world, and all the love that is out there to attain? How many people don't have the just incredible stresses of life every day in this world that we live in? What's that number, Isaiah? What do you think it is? How many people do you think wake up every day and think, man, I just can't wait to wake up? There's so many great things in this world. I get to go enjoy nature. I get to enjoy time with my family. I get to explore this world. What a great world we live in. How many people feel that way when they wake up in the morning? Or how many wake up and go, man, I got to go to work again today. I got to get up at 6:00. I'm tired. I got to work till 5:30. Then I got to drive home at 6:30. Then it's time to decompress. Now from 7 to 9, I get to hang out with my family. Then I better get to bed because I got to go back to work the next day. And then you get the one day off on Saturday. And Sunday, you're thinking about getting up early to go to work again on Monday. How many people live in that rat race? And is that healthy? And is that the way we want to live our lives? Because if the answer is no, we'd like more freedom, we'd like to spend more time with our families, then we have to pay attention to the political environment that we're trapped in at this moment in time. Let me get to Brett Pike. This is clip number 9. This guy goes out onto social media and he walks through kind of a history lessons of things that we don't know anything about. Okay. And he's going to talk about how a certain handful of people began to organize a total control system in America. And here we are. Clip number 9. This guy's name is Brett Pike. Check this out.
America's richest people, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, collude to turn the United States into a socialist country? Well, in the 1950s, Congress did an investigation into tax-exempt foundations. The Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment. The investigation concluded that they had tried to manipulate public education in a way that would allow them to centralize power both economically and politically, and that there should be more oversight. But the lead investigator on the committee would come out and say the entire thing was a cover-up. Well, his name would be smeared, and they called him a racist, an anti-Semite, anything they could to discredit the Dodd report. He argued that these tax-exempt foundations had colluded to consolidate control of education, government policy, economics, social science, public opinion. He had access to their internal records, and they colluded to get America into World War I. That they were absolutely obsessed with controlling public opinion, and they used their money to take control of universities, teacher colleges, teacher development, historical scholarship, and social science research, that their ultimate goal was something called oligarchical collectivism, in which government agencies, major corporations, universities, and tax-exempt foundations would become increasingly interconnected. Political and economic power would be consolidated. A permanent underclass will be developed by conditioning people to embrace socialism. Individual liberty will erode, and a small, unelected group would control society, or what we would call today a deep state. Dodd would document all of this in an interview he did with G. Edward Griffin shortly before his death. Griffin, who of course is the famous author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, who was the inspiration behind my book, The Bear from Jekyll Island. Because we owe it to our kids to teach them how the world really works, and that this stuff has been going on for a long time. And helping parents teach their kids the truth about the world is what I love to do. So check out my books on how information is controlled, our rights, and so much more. ClassicalLearner.com.
I love
That's great.
love what that person does. His name is Brett
Yeah.
Pike. If you check him out,
Got to buy some books for my kids.
He does it like little children's books. So, even if you're way behind the 8 ball and you have no idea how the world really works, if you're a person that cares about how the world actually works,
Yeah.
he explains it to you and he explains the history, because you have to remember what he describes there is a group of people, the Rockefellers and the Carnegie Foundation, that
Yeah.
wanted to control power for themselves. They wanted to have the power. They had the money. How do you get control of a society? How do you do it? Well, you control the messaging. You control history. You control what history actually says, right? So if you can control the education system, if you can control the medical system, if you can control the media outlets, if you can control the newspapers, and now with social media, if you can control what people talk about, you control their minds. That's why I say you have to be very careful not to get caught up in the Fox News, CNN cycle of propaganda, because if you do, they will control your mind. It does not allow for you to think for yourself. It creates narratives that seem so real that you can't recognize that they are orchestrated out of thin air to control what you're talking about. No different. I say it every day. The World Wrestling Federation. How many kids, and if you're old enough, I'm 56 years old, let's say you're 55 or older. How many people grew up watching Wrestling at the Chase in the state of Missouri, or watching organized wrestling when you were a kid? And at what point did you realize it wasn't real? How long did it take you when you're watching Andre the Giant come off the top rope at 500 pounds and land his big thunderous leg on Hulk Hogan? How many people, when they were kids, thought that was real? And then as they got older, they went, well, this can't be real, because if this 500-pound man took a full swing at this other guy, he'd knock his head completely off of his shoulders. Right? But it takes a while for people to start to recognize that this is theater that we're watching. It's so well coordinated, and there's so many unsuspecting people that are involved in the system that they just refuse to recognize that it's theater. And for me, it's relatively frustrating, but let me give you just a little bit of the theater. Okay. Let's start here. Let's start with how they sold it today. Let's start with Mike Johnson. Okay. Now, Mike Johnson, I think most Republicans and most conservatives see Mike Johnson as a fraud until he says what they want to hear. Right, Isaiah?
Mhm.
When Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House in this country, in the United States of America, when Mike Johnson is out there on a day-to-day basis, most Republicans see him as a fraudulent guy. They don't like him. So what do? They team him up with Donald Trump, who's very popular in Republican circles. So now you're like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I was wrong about Mike Johnson. And then when he comes out after an election where Democrat socialists, just a label, but far leftists, win in Manhattan and in New York, people go, uh-oh, here come the communists. And then the rhetoric begins. This is a veering off of the road to make you fearful of something that is already happening. It's just happening from the right. I submit to you. And I'll argue with anybody if anybody wants to disagree with that or put that information before me. Again, this is an open forum. If you disagree with me, put your comments on the screen. If you agree with me, put your comments on the screen. We're going to get the audience involved, because I really wanted to spend about 6 months doing it, Isaiah, is really begin to push the narratives that I think are obvious to me. Again, it might not be obvious to you yet, or it may never be obvious. You may say, Robb's crazy. He's a tinfoil hat conspiracy lunatic. Perfectly fine. But if you want to have the debate, I think when you have a debate and a conversation, you'll start to recognize whether your arguments have weight or not. Right? When you have to actually argue for your point of view and there's somebody pushing back on you, sometimes I push back on things that I believe. We've done it before, Isaiah, right? I'll push
Mhm.
back on something you say, you push back on something
Mhm.
I say. It doesn't mean we're at odds with one another. It
Yeah.
just means, have you thought of it from this angle? Can you recognize how somebody else might perceive this particular issue? Are there many different angles to this particular issue?
Yeah.
Where we
I was
want to
even
go.
thinking last night, I was thinking about what Allison Weir was saying, and I was like, man, because I reflect on these things. I don't think a
Too.
lot of people do this. And so I said, and I'm just thinking, and I did say this, but I was like, man, maybe I didn't make it as clear as I wanted to the audience that um, I think that there's always room for anyone in any nation to be nationalist and want to have their own nation. And so I don't fault the Palestinian people for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think it's
I don't,
natural
yeah,
to do those things. And even, as much as Hamas is terrible and they do terrible things, so does Israel, so does the US, right? It's not a comparison game. Um, their end goal, supposedly, right? Probably a intelligence operation, truthfully, but
mhm,
their end goal supposedly is to liberate Palestine. And that's a noble goal for anyone who's in their own nation, right?
absolutely.
Might not be noble to someone else,
One man's
but
terrorist is
yeah,
another man's freedom fighter.
yeah,
And she said it yesterday. If you go back to 1776, right? The
yep,
founding fathers of this country and the armies that fought against the British, they would be, if the British had won, the history books would have said those people were terrorists.
yeah.
Because they won, they're the founding fathers and they're heroes and freedom fighters. And we get so disillusioned. Is that the right word? We get
Yeah,
so brought out of reality from our education and from the way we are taught things that we really don't question things that we should obviously be questioning, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
Kurt says, I'm 60 and I've never watched a wrestling match in my life. I was discerning even as a child. All right, Kurt, quit bragging. All right, look who we got here.
Oh, sorry. We clicked it at the same time. I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say Debbie went to wrestling matches.
It took you a while. Debbie's right. It was for me too.
Yeah.
I remember watching wrestling at the Chase. It was on Sunday mornings, and then you had Tarzan on, and then football came on. And I used to like Ron Eli. I think that was his name, Ron Eli, the Tarzan guy. That was my morning. I'd watch wrestling at the Chase, then Tarzan was on from 11 to 12, and then football came on. Right? That was my day on Sundays when I was a kid.
Mm.
I thought wrestling was real, right? And then you get to be about
I did too when I was a
10,
kid.
right, 10, 11, 12 years old, and you go, wait a minute, this can't be real. And then you start doing a little bit of conversation with older people. And you're like, no, of course it's all fake, right?
Yeah. Especially once you get in your first fight and you're like, man, getting hit hurts.
I've said it to my wife 1,000 times. I said, you watch something and it'll be a movie, right? And you'll have a bare-fisted guy that's 6'4" punch somebody square in the face, and then the guy comes back and beats him up. I said, honey, listen, I'm just telling you, as a matter of certainty, if a 6'4", 220-pound athletic man punches you in the chin, it is lights out. It'll
Yeah.
take you at least 30 seconds just to get your balance back because your
Yeah,
head's
exactly.
right. This is not the way the real world works. Anyway, let me get into the story that I was going to tell because was going to start with Mike Johnson. All right. So I was listening to Dan and Drew in this morning, and I love Dan and Drew. I do. This is one of the reasons I think the show when I was on there it just had complexity when I was on Real Talk, and it's just some people do not like to hear an opposing point of view, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about the people at Real Talk. I'm talking about the audience, right? I said it was probably good for both of us to split ways because I'm coming from a completely different angle than what the other programming is talking about, right?
Mhm.
Whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter. I'm coming from a different angle. Here is Mike Johnson. They were playing it on their show this morning. That's why I bring it up. And they were saying, okay, be fearful, be fearful. I say, don't be fearful. I say this is a red herring, bunch of horse pucky, if you will. All right. Mike Johnson, clip number 12. Here comes the sell job, right? Here comes the sell job from the right that has mismanaged just about everything that you can think of. This is their sell job to be scared of another form of authoritarian rule, democratic socialism. Clip number 12.
Glad French Hill is here. Chairman Hill did an extraordinary job in the housing bill. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I've got to address a very sobering reality that is facing the country this morning. I did it with the House Republicans, and I was pretty animated this morning. I was up late last night, as I'm sure many of you were, and you saw the result of this latest, these primary elections for the Democrat Party. The headlines this morning say it all. I've got a collection of them here. Socialist earthquake, one of them said. Mamdani candidates sweep New York House races. These are socialists. These are Marxist in their ideology. Next headline, Mamdani hails new chapter for Democrats, one of the Chirons said this morning on the news. Hakeem Jeffries, my counterpart, the Democrat leader here in the House, was booed at some of these return parties last night. You saw that on social media and some of the clips. When he was being interviewed on the screen, the crowds in New York, in his own backyard, in the Bronx, in one of these districts, were booing him. And they shouted, "You're next." Hakeem Jeffries has a tall task ahead of him right now. He's got to go out and somehow make a credible pitch to Democrat establishment donors that that's a good national investment right now. That's a tough one to make. He has just proven that he cannot even hold the line in his own backyard. How can he possibly defend against the Marxist march around the country in these other districts? This is not your father's Democrat Party, as we say all the time. Last night, among the incumbents who lost, Adriano Espaillat, who's chair of the Democrats' Hispanic Caucus, Dan Goldman, who was mocked for his Jewish heritage in a coffee shop in New York and maligned online because of that. The Democrat Party, the socialists, the Marxists, have nominated some of the most radical candidates to ever run for office, and they're running for Congress. The insurgent left is on the rise. I was reminded all last night and this morning about the warning, the admonition from the Gipper, President Ronald Reagan. And he reminded us constantly, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. And he said, it's got to be fought for, it's got to be protected, it's got to be passed along to the next generation so that they too will know the same liberty, opportunity, and security that we've known and frankly too often take it for granted. He said, freedom is not passed along in the bloodstream. It's got to be fought for. And these are the times that Reagan was warning about. He was warning about communism.
So what he's going to talk about, if you pay attention to, I consider Mike Johnson to be one of the greatest frauds of all time. What he's going to try and explain to you is that the left is so bad that you must vote for Republicans. Kevin on the screen says, no socialism is passing a bill giving government power to shut your car off when they want or using eminent domain at will, though. Right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kevin, can we give Kevin a gold star? We need to give out gold stars for great comments. That's exactly right. It is happening in your society right now. All the things that they're going to redirect to the left and make you scared of is probably to blame it on the left as they implement the same exact policies from the right.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things we have to be careful of. Now let's go to our chief propagandist, Dan Bongino. Okay. Now listen to how Dan Bongino, there's
going to fight the deep state for us.
He's going to fight the deep state. He's going to get to the bottom of Epstein. He's going to get to the bottom of all. Dan Bongino, a complete, boy, what a fraud this guy turned out to be. Let me just play this for you. Dan Bongino. Now, again, if you are upset with language, if you have children around, you can't listen to Dan Bongino. He even makes commentary about it today. So he's going to curse. He's going to say words that may bother some people. But I want people to hear what Dan Bongino is selling to his audience, because it is a coordinated redirection away from the ills on the right to the Marxist Democrats on the left. When I submit to you, if you pay attention, the fringe or the lunatic left or the fringe right, it does not matter. If you watch over a long period of time, they move this government in the same direction, which is government control over every single frickin' thing that you do. All of it. Every single thing that you do, the government wants a piece of it. Okay. That is authoritarian rule. That is not freedom. Right. So if you're going to lose your freedom, the right's going to have to blame it on the left, and the left is going to have to blame it on the right. And we stay in that left-right paradigm from now until forever. But you will recognize that neither party wants to clean up the elections. We got Dr. Douglas Frank coming on at 10. You will notice that neither party wants to clean up the elections. I wonder why that is. That's kind of odd. All right, let's do Dan Bongino, clip number 7.
One telling you right now that this war on the Jews that's going on is about specifically and only the Jews is full of shit. It is not only about the Jews. The Jews are a convenient target for many people because they know they can find Jew hatred everywhere. The real...
Now, where does he start off with? The Jews, right? So again, what did I say? This is what propagandists do. You have to recognize that Dan Bongino, whether he started this way or turned out this way, is now a propagandist. He's now just a propagandist. I don't know anybody in my circles that is upset with Jews. In fact, they go overboard, and Tucker Carlson does it too, but they continue to label him as a Jew hater. He says, I don't hate Jews at all. I love all people. I don't have any. Same thing I say. We're talking about the relationship with Israel. By the way, it is illegal to do business with Israel because they have nuclear weapons that are not, they didn't pass international laws or whatever have you. So right now in America, we're not even supposed to be doing business with Israel if they have nuclear weapons. That's why, even though we know they have nuclear weapons and stole them from America, you can't say it out loud. Right? These are the people that we're in bed with. The Israeli government bombed the USS Liberty intentionally, according to 15 80-year-old men that we just spent time with. You can't know that, so they don't tell you. And again, I ask why. If it's a government of, by, and for the people, and a foreign nation bombed a U.S. warship, a spy ship, killed 34 American sailors, wounded 174 American sailors, our media and our government can't talk about that?
Yeah.
Can't investigate it? Can't give some information to these poor people that had their friends and shipmates die? No.
When we were in DC and we
Crazy.
encountered people who knew who the USS Liberty survivors were and they understood the USS Liberty, they went up and shook every one of their hands and thanked them. Anyone who knew what it was about.
Yeah, inside the Capitol. Once
inside the Capitol.
They were not there to see the U.S. They didn't even know what was going on. But once you told them who they were, they started standing up and getting pictures with them. So the people that are aware of the story want some kind of investigation, but the government that Mike Johnson is a big part of right now ignores them completely. And again, I ask you, why do they ignore this information? Do we all remember that Mike Johnson, when he became Speaker of the House, when he hit that gavel, the first thing that he wanted to do, with all the turmoil that was going on in the country at the time, the first thing he said he wanted to do was fund Israel. Number one agenda item for Mike Johnson.
Hurry up.
This is the guy that we're listening to. All right, let's listen to Dan Bongino sell his rhetoric. If people are still watching Dan Bongino, I hope you're doing it for entertainment purposes and not informational purposes, because this guy is a shill for something bigger.
Valuetainment, right?
This guy's out there on a limb somewhere. Let's check it out. This is Dan Bongino. Continue on. He's going to conflate the Jews with Israel all day long and then make you scared of the Democrat socialists when I just listed all of the things that the government is already doing to steal your freedoms and liberties. Go ahead.
War is against Western civilization. And I take that back. Civilization in general. You, ladies and gentlemen, don't believe me. Believe the receipts. You think I'm kidding? You think this fight, Daria Lisa Chevalier, Mamdani, and the anti-Semites out there, you really believe this is about the Jews only? Listen to their own words. Put up that tweet about Western civilization. Daria Lisa Chevalier, who won a primary for the United States House of Representatives last night and will likely be a congresswoman with a massive amount of power, was the co-founder of a group, the Columbia University Apartheid Divestment Group, CUAD. What's the organization's stated goal? Oh, look at that. Fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. What the fuck is going on?
Whisper it. Did it freeze?
I guess so. That froze. That's when.
All right. Because he goes on from there. And
you have a woman who is going to be swearing in.
I think it was the clip that was messing up.
It's a Democrat district. That race is largely over. Who has committed to the eradication of Western civilization. Notice she doesn't only say Israel or the Jews. Notice she doesn't say that. But tell me again, to the fake, phony, astroturf right-wingers sneaking their stupid, dumb, gullible, moronic, imbecilic asses in our tent, telling us how this is about the Jews.
Yeah, he doesn't like
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even Jewish.
Nobody's talking about the Jews.
I'm Catholic. And I'm telling you, first they come for the Saturday people, and then they come for you. Are you stupid? They're telling you. Look at the fucking look at their own thing.
Look at their own thing.
I'm not sorry. Sorry, maybe the language isn't for you, so you guys can bail out. This isn't that type of show. If the language bothers you, then I understand. Read their own words.
This guy.
The total eradication of Western civilization. She doesn't look Western civilization except for America and the other place. I just mean Israel. That's not what that says.
So she represents us, Isaiah. So I guess what Dan Bongino is trying to get across to his audience, that if you disagree if you disagree with U.S.-Israeli policy, if you disagree with Israel bombing Christians in Lebanon, if you disagree with the war in Iran, if you just disagree with these things, then you are looking forward to the end of civilization. And now we align with this particular person who I don't know in New York City. Dan Bongino's not talking about the elections being stolen very much, despite the fact that he agreed that the elections were stolen from Donald Trump. Nothing has changed. It's even gotten worse. And yet he's done nothing at all to bring that to people's attention. You have to wonder, what is important to Dan Bongino? What is important to Dan Bongino? Because what it seems is important to him is exactly what he told that person in the interview. I think that was his wife who said, you know, what do you hold most dear, near and dear to your heart? What did he say? The defense of Israel, right? Not the defense of America, not healthy people in America, not prosperous people in America, not safe people in America, not free people in America. The thing he holds most near and dear to his heart is the defense of Israel. Can't make it up. That's Dan Bongino. Okay? Now let's move on to how they're selling the rhetoric, right? Because now they got to get Mamdani, who, remember, is the Democrat socialist mayor of New York, who went into the White House and stood right next to Donald Trump. Donald Trump goes, I like this guy. We got more in common than I thought. Well, yeah. Yeah, because the government is in collusion. They make you fight over their authoritarianism. Which version do you like? Do you like fascism or do you like communism? Which would you prefer? That's what I'd like to know. Do you want war? Do you want all your constitutional rights to go away? Right? The erosion of your First Amendment, the erosion of your Second Amendment, the erosion of your Fourth Amendment, the erosion of your 10th Amendment. You want all those to go away? Well, it's the left's fault because they want some elections in Manhattan and in New York. Sorry, Isaiah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, did you see, I forgot who I was watching. Oh, Alex Jones said Mamdani's going to be running for president.
Is he going to run for president? I'm sure he will, because that'll be perfect, right? Because that creates the person that everybody wants.
Exactly.
And now you'll say either one, fascism, which is what we have now, or do you want to turn it over to Democrat socialism, which is basically communism? Okay. Let's go to Mamdani, though. This is what freaks the right out. And I would submit to you that if Mamdani wasn't just an actor in the game, if he wasn't just a part of this theatrical, let me get my Warenberg up. Here, let me find it before we do this. You don't mind, Isaiah, clip number 8. And then
yes. I was going to tell you, it's hard to hear the Warenberg clip when we play clips. We can't really hear the music.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Tell me if you can hear. I'll play it a little bit louder.
Okay.
Let's find it. So put Mamdani in there, because what Mamdani is going to talk about is we should have a society that's built more like the Islamic faith, where we welcome immigration. Right. And that will that clip will be the right will go bananas over that.
Oh, yeah.
And I continue to say, if Mamdani really believed that, he wouldn't say it. Right. He wouldn't say it if he believed that. He'd keep that quiet. But what he wants to do is work with the right, in my opinion, and create these feuds amongst the right and the left instead of saying, wait a minute, are we a free people or not? Is a constitutional republic mean anything? Can we take care of our voting systems? Can we get our votes back in order? Can we clean up our schools? Can we clean up our streets? Can we debate and have conversation like we used to? I listen to conversations and debates back from the 60s and stuff all the time. Isaiah, you talk about that was a different world back then. People actually didn't like what either person had to say, but had conversations. You don't have that anymore. It's just flame throwing nonstop. Everybody has to hate each other in order for the system to continue on.
I'm a Nazi, Rob. Don't you know?
We're all Nazis now, right? 3-8, and I'm going to play the Warenberg underneath it. Tell me if you hear it.
And I consider my own faith, Islam, a religion built upon a narrative of migration. The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us, as for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world. Or as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers. If faith offers us the moral compass to stand alongside the stranger, government can provide the resources. Let us create a new expectation of City Hall, where power is wielded to love, to embrace, and to protect. We will stand with the stranger today.
There you go. All right. So he's imploring the people that he's talking to look at it from the Islamic lens, that we invite immigration. It doesn't matter if we invite 30 or 40 million people that destroy our system. Doesn't matter. We have to do it that way. which will create the argument left versus right, right? Again, I say if you're a good politician, you never say that out loud because you know that the American people are not for Islamic rule. So why would you even make that comment? You make that comment because you know the backlash that you're going to get, and then it creates a further divide, and that's how the system thrives, is on you and I fighting over these morons that we have that have been selected to be in our government, not elected, as Dr. Frank is going to talk about here in just a minute, but selected so they get away with this nonsense, right?
I like that. Selected, not elected.
That's right. So the left has to pit you against the right, and the right has to pit you against the left. The system moves the same way regardless. Okay. Now let's go back to this. Let's just talk about the right. Can we talk about the right for a minute, Isaiah?
Oh, yeah.
And you tell me. All right. There is KMOX radio and 97.1 in Missouri. And conservatives will tune in their radio to 97.1 and to KMOX radio to get their news. All right. Well, who owns 97.1 and KMOX? Isaiah, you know who it is, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
George Soros owns Conservative Talk 97.1 and KMOX radio. George Soros worked on behalf of the Nazis, a Hungarian Jew. As I said, it's not all about the Jews, it's about power. He worked with the Nazis. Most people on the right, I would say 95% of people that consider themselves Republicans are from the right, think that George Soros is the second coming of Satan. That's what they believe. And yet I ask you, how many times will you see, now I'm not in the radio business, so people can't get mad at me. How many times will you see Republicans in the state of Missouri go on 97.1 to tell their story or to get out a message? Would you, I just asked the Republican Party, if we were in 1942 Germany, would you go on a station that was owned by Hitler? No, you wouldn't do that because the aroma would be bad for you. But in Missouri, you'll say that George Soros is the beginning and the end of all evil. The Open Societies Foundation. But when he buys Odyssey Radio and takes over KMOX Radio and 97.1, you'll go on there and talk about politics all day long. Would that be considered hypocritical? For me, it would. But for the Republican Party, who wants you to aim left and say, wait a minute, look at the Marxists over there, they will go on Odyssey Radio on a station owned by George Soros and make sure they get advertising dollars to perpetuate George Soros. You just cannot make it up, in my humble opinion. Here's just a little bit of George Soros when he was on 60 Minutes. It is the second clip that I sent to you, Isaiah. Did you get that one?
Mm-hmm.
Check out George Soros, then we'll bring in Dr. Douglas Frank.
Years you've been blamed for financial collapse of Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, and Russia.
All of the above.
All of the above. Are you that powerful?
No, I think there's a great misunderstanding. I am basically there to make money. I cannot and do not look at the social consequences of what I do. As a competitor, I've got to compete to win. As a human being, I am concerned about the society in which I live.
Which George Soros am I talking to now? The amoral George Soros or the moral George Soros?
The Odyssey George Soros.
It's one person. It's one person who at one time engages in amoral activities and at the rest of the time tries to be moral.
You're a Hungarian Jew who escaped the Holocaust by posing as a Christian.
Right.
And you watched lots of people get shipped off to the death camps.
Right. I was 14 years old. And I would say that that's when my character was made.
In what way?
That one should think ahead, one should understand and anticipate events, and one is threatened. It was a tremendous threat of evil. I mean, it was a very personal experience of evil.
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes, yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years.
That's tough.
Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all.
I love
maybe as a child you don't see the connection. but it created no problem.
This is the person that Republicans in the state of Missouri who are going to warn you about all of the leftist tactics and the out-of-state money and all of the boogeymen that are coming from the left. But each and every one of them will go on KMOX radio and 97.1 Odyssey Radio that was purchased by George Soros, who admittedly does immoral things, which means crush societies, and doesn't care at all. And it is the hypocrisy that drives me crazy. I know the left, the far left, is insane. What I don't think is recognized is that the people on the right are allowing the far left to get stronger and stronger and stronger as they sell the idea that they're trying to fight against them. That's what I don't think people are noticing. It is World Wrestling Federation organized propaganda to keep control of this system that got out of the hands of the voters and into the hands of the oligarchs. And that is a fact, Jack. Let me get to it real fast.
Oh, yeah.
That's the fact, Jack! That's a fact, Jack!
All right.
We're working on That's a Fact, Jack shirts, just so everyone knows.
I'm going to get several shirts made. Let's get in some advertising. Bring in Dr. Douglas Frank. I don't want to make him wait too long. People's Lobby Missouri, everybody. The reason we do what we do is to convince people that we are not in a good situation in our country. We're moving in the wrong direction. You have to hold your government accountable. There are too many grassroots organizations, in my humble opinion, that is cozy up to the Republican Party, and they sell whatever party the leadership of the party wants to sell. They jump right in line with them. They spoon them. They make love to them. They do everything they need to do to make sure they have access to power. People's Lobby Missouri says, fine, do all that you want to do, but we're going to expose it. We're going to draw you out into the sunlight. We're going to have conversations with you. We're going to begin the process of pressuring you both on social media, in person, in Jefferson City. Everywhere you go, we're going to begin to ask the proper questions, not your BS narrative questions, but real questions. And then we'll see how you answer them and we'll make our determination. You must, in the state of Missouri, begin to pay attention to elections. That's why we bring on Dr. Douglas Frank. That's why we talk to Ali Grafe. That's why we talk to everybody in the business about elections. We want to hear what they have to say. We're going to try and poke holes in their theories. We're going to figure out who's telling the truth. But nonetheless, Donald Trump and Barack Obama both told us that machines affected the outcome of elections, and neither party in the year 2026 have done jack diddly ding dong about it. peopleslobbymo.com. We'd love a donation. peopleslobbymo.com. We are your voice, whether you understand it or not, whether you like us or not. We are your voice in Missouri to get things done and pressure a government that we believe is not doing their duty. peopleslobbymissouri.com. peopleslobbymo.com. Rocket, ROCKIT careers.com. This is my friend Mitch and Brian. If you're a small to medium-sized business, human resources doesn't get the job done, you go to rocketcareers.com. They'll put the right candidates before you, so you have good people in your business, so you have a better environment, so that you can get more done. You have to have good people in your business, and as a small business owner right now, that is very difficult to do. The talent level of some of these people that come into your offices and interview with you, it's not very good, you must admit. Rocketcareers.com. They vet these people. They put the right candidates before you. They do the job that human resources should be doing. Maybe it's too expensive. Maybe they're not doing the work properly. Doesn't matter to me. Rocketcareers.com. Small to medium-sized businesses, listen to me. Rocketcareers.com. ROCKIT careers.com. You can reach them at 636-778-2419. Great people. Great people. Isn't that who you want to do business with, Isaiah?
Oh, yeah.
Do business with great people. Rocketcareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com, 636-778-2419, 636-778-2419. And if you're out of work or hate your job, same thing applies. They'll put you in front of their network of employers to help you launch a new career. Rocketcareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com, 636-778-2419. Valvoline, when it's time for an oil change, don't forget about our good friend Tony Clark over there at Valvoline Express Care. Again, when it's time for an oil change, it's always Valvoline Express Care. It's the one thing you can do that everybody has a car unless you're walking to work. Everybody has a car. When it's time for an oil change, if you're not doing it on your own, you got to get to Valvoline Express Care. If you need coupons, maybe it just takes some money off for you, Valvoline-expresscare.com. Quick, easy, efficient oil changes, 15 minutes from bay to on your way. Let's go through the locations if you don't mind. They have locations in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, Highland, Illinois, Troy, Illinois, Lee May Ferry Road, Warrenton, Missouri, Mid-Rivers Mall Drive, and St. Peters Parkway. When it's time for an oil change, it is Valvoline Express Care, our good friend Tony Clark. If I don't see that sticker in your window, how in the world can we possibly, Isaiah, be friends. And then one more.
You almost disowned your own son. You had to check his window.
That's right. Where's the sticker at? All right. Advanced Wellness MED, advancedwellnessmed.com. Very quickly, everybody knows Helen Gellhot by now. We promote her every day. It's because we love Helen Gellhot. We love the fact that she got out of the hospital administration system because she said, I cannot provide the care that is best for my patients unless I go solo. I'm sure it cost her gobs of money to do it this way. But advancedwellnessmed.com and Dr. Helen Gellhot, she specializes in things that kill you. She has the earliest cancer detection blood test available. So if you're concerned, if you're getting to that age where cancer is a concern, get out there and see Dr. Helen Gellhot, the earliest cancer detection blood test available. And what does that do? When you catch cancer early, we can take care of it. When you can't catch it too late, not much we can do. You're headed for a death sentence. Get out and see Dr. Helen Gellhot, 314-576-0094. And one other thing I want to remind everybody, if you know somebody in your family or a friend of a family that is suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, get it early. Symptom reversal for Alzheimer's and dementia is offered by Dr. Helen Gellhot. Whole series of questions she's going to ask. She's going to find out what's going on with you, and she can reverse the symptoms. Anybody that has had a family member suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's knows how difficult it can be on the family. Get out there, get this done early. As she said, the most intelligent people hide it the best, so it's hard to get them in. But if you can reverse dementia and Alzheimer's before it gets too far down the road, just think of how much better life would be with your parents and grandparents. Take the opportunity. Reach out to Dr. Helen Gellhot at 314-576-0094, advancedwellnessmed.com. As she likes to say, feel, think, look better, live longer. Dr. Helen Gellhot, 314-576-0094, or go to her website, advancedwellnessmed.com. All right, let's bring in Dr. Douglas Frank. I'm sure he's going, Rob, what are you doing? When 11 o'clock means 11 o'clock, doesn't mean 11:06. I understand, Dr. Douglas.
No worries, brother. I know the way this works.
I got to make sure that everybody that supports me is taken care of, and I work overtime to make sure those people get everything they deserve for supporting me, because I am not easy to support. Because
no worries, it's all good.
I talk about things that are uncomfortable. I want to ask you, because you were in when I was on the radio station. You were in. Now you're coming through Missouri. Yeah. You're doing a live event with me and Act for Missouri. I think it's on the 27th, Dr. Frank. You don't have to look it up. But people I think got away from election security, Dr. Frank, when Donald Trump won in 2024. I always tell this story. I was listening to Catherine Austin Fitts, and she said Donald Trump will win in 2024 because they want the tech bros to take over. And she said that will be ushered in. And she said, and then election security questions will just kind of evaporate. I'm not going to get into the politics of it all, but in 2024, when Donald Trump was running after what we watched in 2020, everybody on the right was talking about election security. Are you seeing that fervor now in 2026? Because I don't see much has changed.
Nothing has changed legislatively, I'll tell you that. I've worked with multiple legislatures across the country. Nobody is doing anything meaningful to repair elections. Trump proposed the SAVE Act, of course. And of course, did you notice who's resisting it and not supporting it? So,
well, there's multiple different ways, as I understand it, to manipulate elections. We had Alex Newman on the other day from Liberty Sentinel, and he said,
yeah, I know Alex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what he said to me is, he goes, the problem with elections, he goes, is there's so many different ways to, he didn't say this, but verbatim, he said, it's hard to prove because it's...
Yeah, there are about a dozen ways, yeah.
And a lot of elections are being manipulated, and some aren't. So it's kind of hard, where is it? Well, I won my election, so what are you talking about? And I'm the greatest, so if I won, then everything's fair.
Everything must be okay.
Do you see that, before we get into the mechanics of it all, do you see the psychology of elections shifting away because Donald Trump won and people that were concerned that elections were being stolen now can say, well, we're just too big to rig? That makes a lot more sense than clean elections. We'll just make it too big to rig. Are you seeing the psychology change from voters?
Yes, absolutely. And this idea that he made it too big to rig is actually wrong. I've done all the numbers and I show it in my talks. That's preposterous. What happened? Trump didn't win the election. Imagine you go to a football game and you got your team all revved up and ready to go, and the other team shows up in crutches. You didn't win that game. The other team lost it. And that's what happened in this election. It's true that we had some protective measures in place to suppress some of the fraud, but not all the fraud by any means. God gave us a gift. I always tell people God gave us a gift. He kept Biden alive until the last minute. And so they were stuck. So they were stuck with Kamala, and Kamala is the worst candidate in my lifetime. I'm 65. I've seen a lot of presidential races. She's the worst ever. And I can show you precinct by precinct across the country. People just didn't turn out for her. It doesn't matter what state. The turnout was dramatically lower. And even with the cheat, it wasn't enough to cover what Trump delivered. Trump essentially delivered in 2024 the same number of votes he delivered in 2020. It went up a little bit, but that's just population change. So, in other words, he turned out his base, same before as after. It wasn't too big to rig. That's the messaging that the GOP is telling people to say, oh, yeah, keep sending us money. Look, we won. We did the right stuff. Wrong. It's the wrong stuff. You need to repair your elections. The elections, reform our elections. The elections are a wreck in this country, and not a single legislature has done anything to fix it.
Which always gives me pause to go, wait a minute. I'm thinking, Dr. Frank, and then we'll get into the mechanics. I promise I'm gonna give you as much time as you need.
No worries.
But I got a lot of questions for you. I continue to say, if I'm a Democrat, right?
Yeah.
Why am I not saying, okay, the Republicans continue to say that the elections were stolen in 2020. We don't believe that. But if they believe it, why aren't they passing legislation to challenge it? And they're not. I fight about it here in Missouri. You were on my radio show. We talked about it when you were there.
Yeah.
The Republican Party in the state of Missouri does nothing. I mean, jack diddly ding dong, absolutely nothing to secure our elections, and yet continue to put out social media content and content for voters in Missouri that they're doing all of these great things. They're cleaning up the voter rolls. They're doing this. They're doing that. And I just roll my eyes at it every time because I think people actually buy into it. What is your take on why the states or why either one of these parties has not taken an easy? I see if you're a real government, if it's really a government of by and for the people, I see an easy win as to say, listen, here's what I would do with the elections. And you may have a different opinion. I'm just speaking out loud.
That's fine. We can disagree, but I doubt we do.
Well, I would say that you would have a state or a national holiday, right? Because a lot of the
great idea. Absolutely. Should be a national holiday.
Of course, because we can't count the ballots, Rob. I mean, people are working. We don't have, we can't. I'm like, wait a minute, it's a republic. And if we don't have clean votes, if we can't pick our leadership, then by definition, we're not free. So you, as representatives of the people, should want to make sure that we have complete confidence in our elections, which mean a state or federal holiday, right? Hand counted paper ballots. If they want to do the tabulators, it's just to check on the hand counts, right? The hand, in my opinion,
problem with that. I have no problem with that.
Hand counting should be first. The voter rolls are very shady to me. I don't know how you keep voter rolls intact. Maybe you'll explain that to me. But I look at the voter rolls and go, man.
Now you're on the right topic.
I know. I know where you're going. Voter rolls and mass mail-in voting to me seems unconstitutional. Number one, unrealistic. Number two, and unconscionable. Number three. And yet it still continues on with two parties that supposedly hate each other. Makes me wonder if there's a little bit of coordination going on between.
I told you we agreed.
So you agree with me so far?
100%. There's nothing you said that isn't right.
Okay, great. And then one more question about just the world in general before we get into the mechanics. I believe that you opened up in a rally for Donald Trump. I was watching something. It's certainly you were opening up in a rally and you were talking about elections and you introduced your family was there and so forth and so on. How does that happen? Does somebody call you? Do you make a request? I mean, how does the process of getting up in front of a rally audience for Donald Trump, how does that all come about?
Well, I had been asked by the state of Pennsylvania after the 2020 election to be part of their audit. You might remember Doug Mastriano asked for an audit in Pennsylvania. And what happened was, because he asked for an audit, people don't know this. He's like a decorated war hero. Because he asked for an audit in Pennsylvania, his budget was cut, his staff was cut, he lost his office, and he was removed from every committee in the Pennsylvania legislature. This is a Republican majority legislature. You would think their guy lost. Trump was a Republican candidate. You would have thought they would have said, hey, we want to address this. But no, anybody who questions integrity of elections anywhere in any of our legislatures in this country, they are removed. They are emasculated. They're cut off at the knees. I can give you dozens of examples around the country. So in other words, it's not a Republican-Democrat issue. People want to make it into that. And the example I use is, for example, in the state of Oregon, they have 105% of their people registered. But in Kentucky, they have 105% of their people registered. It's not about red and blue. It's about whoever's in control, keep in control. That's what it's all about.
Amen. Just very quickly, did you pay attention to Sarah Huckabee? Now, we followed that story just a little bit where Sarah Huckabee, there was a county in Arkansas that wanted to count their paper ballots by hand.
Right.
And the state of Arkansas came after him under Sarah Huckabee, who was the press secretary for Donald Trump, and just watched the 2020 elections being stolen. And then she throws the weight of her government to take out these people who want to count votes by hand.
You make my point. You make my point. It's not, the GOP is actually my biggest opposition as I travel the country. In fact, I just came back from South Korea. You'd be surprised. I have an analogous story over there. I just spent 2 weeks in South Korea. We just lost South Korea. I hope we get a chance to talk about that. You're going to be shocked what I tell you.
Tell me. I'm right there. So tell me about what happened in South Korea. Then we'll get into We'll get into U.S. federal elections, state elections, and everything else. So I want to pick your brain today. So tell me about South Korea.
What happened? I didn't answer your first question. I should probably finish that because you asked, how does a guy get invited to Trump's rally? I forgot. I took us off track a little bit. Let me bring us back to that. Then let's do. How about that?
Yeah.
So what happened was, since I did the audit in Pennsylvania, Mr. Lindell noticed my work there, and he made a documentary about me called Scientific Proof. Mr. Lindell made 4 documentaries that year. The first one was called Absolute Proof, and that's where he showed the communications going between Asia and America, the network communications. Yep. And then the second movie he made was called Scientific Proof, and that featured my work. It was just me and him, and he showed my work from Pennsylvania and around the country. And so suddenly 12 million people in the first week saw that movie. So I was pretty famous from that. And then Trump saw that. And so he had his people call me, and they said, Dr. Frank, would you please be our keynote speaker at Trump's first rally? That was quite an honor. I was impressed. And the message from Trump to me was, Dr. Frank, your job is to explain to the world how they stole my election. So I got to stand up in front of the world and show basically the math of how they were stealing the elections. And, at that point in time, I was thinking that all I needed to do was show people that it wasn't real, show everybody that it was all contrived and controlled and centrally controlled, and people would get up in arms and they would say, we're going to deal with this. I really thought that's all I needed to do at that time. So it kind of shows my naivete. I had to learn that lesson. And so I spent most of 2021 meeting with legislatures, meeting with secretaries of states, meeting with the AGs. I got my show me bow tie on, my Missouri bow tie, because I was welcomed into the state of Missouri as a friend of Missouri, formally on the floor of the House. I thought that I was like going to fix the country by just showing people that the elections weren't real. I way misread this. That's the problem with being a scientist. You come out of the ivory tower. Physics is easy. Political science, it ain't science. So it was an interesting year for me to learn that really what's going on is both sides. Nobody wants to fix this because it keeps them in control. And that was the lesson. So that's how I got to speak at Trump's first rally after he was out of office. And it was an amazing experience for me because 21,000 people saw me live and another several million online at the time, or on television. Several networks covered that, and then CNN did pieces on me, and it was a lot of exposure. Suddenly, I became the expert on elections, and I have done nothing since 2020 except this. I'm on the road 25 out of 30 days a month, trying to, and I'm succeeding, by the way, in some states. I'm here in Missouri because the movement hasn't really picked up here, hasn't caught fire yet. People think, oh, everything's good here, Dr. Frank, because we've elected Republicans to office. Yeah, how's that working out for you? So, Denny Hoskins called me. You were talking about it earlier. There's a phenomenon, I call it the Trump slump. Once we elected Trump to office, everybody's sitting back waiting for him to fix the country. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not our country. We, the people, are the country.
And he said that, Dr. Frank. He said that in his election in 2000. It was January 20th, 2017. Yeah. He has Barack Obama and the Clintons sitting behind him, and he says, I am taking this government and I'm returning it back to you.
And the people.
But the people don't want to do anything because they think Trump is going to fix everything. I'm like,
exactly. And that's not our country.
It's critical of Trump. I said, no, he's just, he's basically showing you he's exposing everything in the country.
Exactly.
If you just take that from him, he's exposed all of the ills, all of the things going on with immigration, with fake media, with the banks, with everything has been exposed, but you got to get up and do some work.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. We're looking up for the solution when the solution is us.
Yes.
We are the solution. We the people. American is an experiment in self-government. We need to start acting like it. So what I've learned, and I've been pretty successful around the country, is I organize teams in multiple counties in the state, and they stand together against the state. I've got a lot of success so far in Oregon, Colorado, Wisconsin, Alabama, and I'm trying to get the same thing going in Missouri right now. But that's kind of what my work's been for the last 6 years. 25 out of 30 days a month on the road. It's been really crazy for me. I've learned a lot, but I've been starting to become much more effective because I've had to kind of learn what works and how to do it. But this South Korea thing, I was watching your program before I came on. You guys are right on target. This is not merely an American problem, an issue in the US. What happened about 2 months ago, I got a call from the former prime minister of South Korea. And he said, Dr. Frank, we need you out here to help us with our election fraud team. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know word one about South Korea. I don't know anything about it. And I said, well, okay, well, let's have a Zoom call together. So we had a Zoom call. We started talking back and forth. Next day, I sent them a text and said, hey, do you still want me? Am I helpful to you? They said 1,000%. We need you. Please come, please come, please come. So I went out there and I came back from 2 weeks in South Korea. I arrived 2 days before their election. They have their election on June 3rd, plus 2 days of early voting. I learned their system. I observed. I went to multiple polling sites around the country. And so I kind of learned their system, watched it. And I was expecting to have to do there what I've been doing here. What do I do here? I get election data. I get voter rolls. I prove that there's fraud. We knock on doors. We find fraud, all that kind of stuff. And then after you find the fraud, you show it to the leadership and you demand reform and things like that. I was expecting to have to do that kind of thing. But actually, it was handed to us on a silver platter. And this is what happened. In the early voting, people turned out to vote, and they vote in person. They always vote in person there. And then on election day, June 3rd, 140 of their polling places didn't have enough ballots. And what happened is their NEC, their National Election Commission, said, that's okay, we'll just count what we got and that's it. And the people are like, what? You're not going to let us vote? And they said, well, we already gave you enough ballots for the people you have there. What had happened is in the early voting, they had a whole bunch of cheating. A whole bunch of people came in and voted who weren't supposed to vote. So they ran out of ballots. So then you got to understand about South Korea, these people, they live vertically. They live in these kind of like groups of buildings, like 50-story buildings, 10 of them grouped together. Like 10,000 people will live like in one, several square blocks. You can drive down the road another 5 miles. There's another group of these buildings. They live vertically. Yep. And so it's crazy. I'm telling you, I was right there. I was in the middle of this. The very first precinct where they had this problem, I'm standing there in front of these people. And what happens is they said to the NEC, the National Election Commission, you either give us more ballots so we can finish voting, or we're not giving you any ballots. And so what happened is 10,000 people came down out of these buildings and surrounded the building. I'm right there. I got a bullhorn. We're like talking to these Korean people. Of course, I don't talk Korean, so we have a translator. But we basically said to the government, we're not giving you our ballots until you give us enough ballots so everybody can vote. Well, around the country, other precincts started popping up. Yeah, we ran out too. And before we knew it, we had dozens that very first night of precincts that didn't have enough ballots. And they were basically saying, we're not going to give you our ballots. So the next day, the police, well, maybe 2 days later, the police show up. They come in this wedge of police with shields. Because, by the way, the people in Korea, totally disarmed. It's illegal to be armed there. Why do you think we have a Second Amendment? Not to protect ourselves from burglars or go hunting. We have a Second Amendment to protect ourselves from the government. So anyway, the people come in with the police come in with the shields and they push people out of the way and they grab the ballot boxes. Then that 10,000 people is free. So what do? They go join another precinct. Before we knew it, within 3 days, we had 3 major concentrations, over 1 million people demonstrating in South Korea. And guess who's in the middle of that? I'm like a national hero over there. I've got today I have my Missouri bow tie on, but I had my American flag bow tie on. And it's like they're saying, come and save us, America. We're in trouble. Last year, they had a corrupt election, 2025. They have a communist for a president. And this year, now they have a communist national legislature. It's called the National Assembly. And guess what? The very first bill they're voting on in July, they're going to change their constitution. They're going to become a socialist country. So what's happened is I got
to tell you a story before you sell it, right? Go ahead. The Quiet Coup. Go ahead. You can sell that first. Go ahead. Tell me what.
Yeah, it's not my book, but while I was there, the head of their CIA, it's called the National Intelligence, gave me this book. It's an English preprint of a book it's about to be published, where he's been tracking the CCP infiltration in South Korea for decades. And he said, here's how they did it. Here's how they took over our country. And guess what? As I'm reading this book, it's like, holy mackerel. Every one of these steps, it's a color revolution, is happening in America. They're taking over America in the same way they took over South Korea. Now, South Koreans 9 out of 10 of them are anti-communist, but they're like, how did we just elect a communist president? How did we just elect a communist state legislature? And our NEC, our national elections, they're communist, and our courts are communist. They've lost their country. They know it, and they're desperate. And I'm telling you, 3 weeks since that election, guess what? There's still 500,000 people surrounding Seoul Stadium. It is crazy. I was standing there in front of those crowds, I'm like the only American there. It's crazy. I'm like their national hero. All I did was show up in my bow tie. I thought I was going to have to be.
I want to tell you a story before you finish, because I don't.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think you'll find this interesting. I went to China in 2019. I thought when I was there that there was one guy that was with me the entire time that I was there. He was the one that was chaperoning me around to dinner, to lunches, everything else. And he spoke perfect English. And there was a time when I said, and everybody else gave me their cards, right? Because I'm in the shoe business. So I'm getting the production people. I'm getting the marketing people. I'm getting the people that make soles. I'm getting the factory owners. I'm getting the designers. They're all handing me their cards because when I get back to the States, they want to be able to communicate with me, right?
Sure.
You heard the brand Fila, F-I-L-A?
Yeah,
so
sure.
We built, so this is mostly people that were aligned with Fila because we were making shoes out of the Fila factories, okay? So there's this guy that's always with me. He speaks perfect English. He's very nice to me. And I kept thinking he was some form of a handler because he spoke perfect English and he was right at the time, but he didn't have a card to give me. And when I said, what do you do? Everybody started laughing. Okay. So as the week went, and I like this guy. So the week went on and we're having a good time and I'm talking to him. And I said, so how long, you speak perfect English? Is that something they teach in the schools in China? You know what he told me? I'm in to see you from South Korea. And I never understood that. That never made any sense to me. I'm like, you're in from South Korea to be with me. Now, you got to remember, I had a podcast going on at the time. I was in politics at the time. I had a podcast going on at the time. Or not a podcast going on at the time. I shouldn't say that. I was a Trump supporter at the time. So very, I don't even know what the word is, but very outspoken on social media. And I just thought that was very odd that somebody had come in from South Korea to kind of monitor my behavior and what I was doing in China. And as you just said, those two countries seem to be in coordination with one another, where the CCP is using tactics to take over a very large economy in South Korea.
There's an organization based there, and I visited there and met people and did research there called AWEB, AWEB. It's called the Association of World Election Bodies. There are 120 member countries. Guess who started it? Soros, decades ago. And guess who funds it? USAID, until last year when Trump cut that funding. And what it is, it's basically the international election fraud cartel. They export fraud all around the world. And as soon as I was there, I don't know if you want to share my screen or not, but as soon as I was there, I made the cover of their national magazine.
Isaiah, if you can share it, share it.
Yeah, I'll make that.
We can share your screen. Isaiah can do anything.
Yeah. Go ahead and share it. I'll show you what happened.
I've seen Isaiah juggle 5 rabbits, live rabbits.
Yeah, just go ahead, Dr. Frank. Just move maximize that screen window right there, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's what I was going to do. Okay, good. Are you there?
Yep, I can throw it up here.
Okay, you see that? So while I was visiting there, I took a picture of myself like this in front of their headquarters because we were there interviewing. And the next day, guess what showed up on the cover of their magazine? In other words, the people there know nobody there is allowed to mention this name. Yet the American guy comes there, is investigating. The people in Korea are like so excited because they know this is election fraud central. In fact, we have evidence that this is where the fake ballots and the fake phony IDs from America were printed from, and that's where it came. This is what it looks like around Seoul Stadium.
Look at that.
And guess where Dr. Frank is standing? I'm standing right there in the front with my bullhorn. They won't let any national officials in because they're protecting the ballots that are in there, but they welcome me in. It's like parting the Red Sea. And this picture doesn't do it justice, but there are lots of most of the demonstrations have, like, check this one out. This is 200,000 college students on a march. Notice that half of the flags are American and half the flags are Korean. And they're shouting, "We want a re-election. We want a re-election." It's amazing. And How come nobody in America is covering it?
Uh-huh.
And the answer is because we're complicit. And it's incredible. This is what I was telling you about when the police form a wedge and push us out of the way. This is the former prime minister of Hwang Kyo-man is his name. Just incredible experience for me. I had no idea that this was going to be like this. And
pop it up. You trying to pop something up on the screen again?
Oh, you want me to put something up?
No, I said, were you trying to? I didn't know if you.
No, I figured I showed you enough for that part. Unless you want to see more. It's a very interesting movement there. They've got the older folks who remember the Korean War, but they're afraid of communism, so they weren't ready to come out and demonstrate. And then you got the younger kids, the college kids, and they're pissed off because the government's stealing their rights, and they know it. So the young kids started the protests, then the old folks joined them. Now, if you know a little history about South Korea, you'll remember that about 140 years ago, there was a huge religious revolution there, awakening. And Protestant missionaries went there, and basically the whole peninsula became Christian.
Right.
Then in 1950 to 53, you had the Korean War. 38th parallel was established. And the communists are above and the South Koreans are below. And the communists slaughtered all the Christians, closed all the churches, slaughtered all the Christians. It's actually treason to be a Christian right now in North Korea. So the third element that's protesting in South Korea are the churches. And what a change is that for me? The churches here in America are mostly dead. Okay. Right. And so you got the churches. They see the communism as an existential threat. They know that the government now is fully communist, and they're afraid. So you got the churches protesting, you got the young people protesting, you got the old people protesting. It's interesting. The group that's not protesting are those 40, 50, 60-year-old people who are educated in the West. It's interesting. They're like the business people that are working. So you can see a shift change in the crowds. During the day, it's the old people. At night, it's the young people. And then the churches come out and hold prayer meetings. It's crazy. And to this day, right now, today, there are hundreds of thousands of people protesting right now in South Korea. It's crazy. Yet their national media won't cover it. And basically, they've been taking everybody off of X. They have the ability to filter. Mm-hmm. And they've been taking everybody off of X. And how come none of our media in America is covering this?
Why didn't we send?
Go ahead.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the media is not? I complain about the media not covering things that matter all the time. Why do you think they're not covering elections?
So because the establishment likes the elections the way they are right now.
Amen.
The establishment is in control because of the way the elections are right now. They're not going to give up since when does government willingly relinquish control? Never. It's always central control. Governments always move that direction. The only way to stop that is for we the people to stand up and say, no, sorry, we're not going to give you our control. And that's what we need to be doing that, and we haven't been. We've lost sight of the fact that we the people are the government, and we need to take it back. So that's what I teach counties to do around the country.
Okay, let's start there. Federal government. So let's talk about, because I know you want to get to voter rolls, but if you can, in order of importance, how do you see the elections being stolen? So people can understand it. So when they go, Dr. Frank, just A, B, C, D, how did they steal this election? Where would you start?
Well, if you think about it, there's really three parts to an election. Who gets to vote? That's pretty simple. And that's the voter rolls. How do you vote when you vote? And how do you count them up? That's basically the process of voting. And then how do you report it? So there are really three parts. The very first part is who gets to vote, and that's the voter rolls. And one of the things that was a shock to me when I began studying the various states is how dirty the voter rolls are. And I used to have to argue this. I would download the data from a state, I would study the voter rolls, and I would say, look, you guys got about 30% of the people in your rolls don't belong there. Everybody thought I was a wackadoodle. Except since then, Judicial Watch has been going around the country suing everybody, suing the states, and they win every one of those cases. And guess what they prove? They prove that the voter rolls are dirty. 20, 30% of the rolls are dirty. I could quote you case after case, but just for local recent reference, in Los Angeles, 2 years ago, they were required to remove 1.2 million people from their voter rolls. And that was a low amount. I think it should have been more like 2 million people that they had to remove. It was proven in court. They were out of compliance and they had to remove at least 1.2 million. And that was 25% of their voter rolls. So I was right on target. And just this year, just a couple months ago, Judicial Watch sued Oregon, the state of Oregon. And they had to remove 800,000 from their voter rolls. That's about a third of their voter rolls. So I've been telling everybody this. And they think, oh, Doug, you're just a wackadoodle. So why is that a problem? Well, imagine in a state like Oregon where they mail ballots to everybody in the voter rolls. Well, if 30% of the ballots you're mailing out are going, to not a real voter, you're just basically littering the pavement. So that's a huge problem. And anybody who wants to cheat can just scrape up a few of those ballots and turn them in. So that's the movie 2000 Mules. You've seen that where the mules are stuffing the ballot. So that's a big deal. In states where they don't have a much mail. Now, here I am in Missouri, and you got to realize in Missouri, 10% of your ballots are coming in by mail. And that number only is increasing every year. People somehow get it in their head, oh, isn't it nice that I can mail in my ballot? It makes it so easy. What they're basically doing is sacrificing the integrity of the election for convenience. And we should never do that. And
isn't it unconstitutional, Dr. Frank? I had a guy that used to, and he drove me crazy, but he used to call into the radio show all the time and text me and email me. And he said, Rob, he goes, why don't you, it was something in the Constitution that says you only have one day to vote. He goes, that's in the Constitution.
Right.
Why are we letting people get away with fraudulent elections? I asked Denny Hoskins the same thing.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't you hold a press conference with then Attorney General Andrew Bailey and say,
Right.
I can't certify these elections because they're not being run constitutionally.
Right.
And his answer to me was he didn't want to be a grandstander. I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of important to be a grandstander.
That's what we elected you to be, a grandstander, brother.
I thought so, but what do I?
Yeah, exactly. I've talked with Denny on the phone several times, and he's one of the. I mean, I hate to say it, but there are only a couple of good Secretary of States in the country. We just won the election in Nebraska, so I've been telling people we have 3 that are decent at Secretaries of States in the country, and I number Denny among that. But he called me after the election last year. It was about a year ago, and he said,
Dr. Frank.
What's that?
They took his budget away from him too, by the way.
Did you notice?
Yeah.
Who took away his budget? The Democrats?
The Republicans.
Ah, that's my point. It's not a Republican Democrat issue. Whoever's in control likes staying in control. Missouri is amazingly MAGA. You guys are like 2-to-1
Big
almost
time.
everywhere voting for quote unquote Republican candidates. But that doesn't mean diddly, because the Republicans are not on your side either. It's whoever's in control, keep in control. So Denny called me and he said, what's happened, Dr. Frank? He says, you helped to raise up the troops. Everybody got me elected. And where's all my support? He says, the troops have just evaporated. And I said, it's like the Trump slump. Everybody elected him, and now they all stand back and wait for him to fix the problem. That ain't the way it works, folks. You have to put the pressure on. There are guardrails on what he can do. It's called legislation. He doesn't get to write law. He has to implement law. Now, he has some discretion, and he's begun using it. But it would be a mistake for him to be too much out there, because he's then fighting the legislature. We, the people, have to pressure the legislature. And we the people have to draw lines in the sand and say, okay, there's fraud in our county because of your system, so we're not going to use your system. That forces reform. That's how I come from.
I like it. Can I play a clip for you?
Oh, sure.
I want to play this too, because you're talking about voter rolls, and I want to see if this lays into it. So when I was at the radio at Real Talk, we had Ashcroft on, and now a state rep by the name of Holly Jones was questioning former Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. Okay. Here's how the conversation went. And I just want to get your take on what's going on here, because this seems very odd to me, right? I don't dislike Jay Ashcroft, but this answer seemed very strange coming off the 2020 elections. Here we go. This is Holly Jones, who was working at the radio station at the time. She's now an elected House rep, and she's interviewing on radio former Secretary of State, then Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft. Check this out.
Yeah, I met him.
Question. Thank you for explaining that. If someone goes into a Social Security Administration office, just somewhere to register to vote, and they offer up their state-issued ID, whether it's a driver's license or a non-driver's license, how do we know if that is an illegal or a citizen? Because illegals...
That's a great question.
Illegals
that's a really good question.
Yeah, they're able to just come in, get ID,
She's right. They're able.
Or driver. And how do we even know if these people are legal citizens of the United States and then can register to vote because they have a license?
And he basically doesn't answer the question. I don't want to play the whole interview, but I heard that and I went, wait a minute. So after the 2020 elections, where all of the Republicans are concerned about stolen elections, and then you have 2 Republicans talking to one another, one's a Secretary of State, and says, if I walk into any of these places and show them an ID, a state-issued ID, even though I'm a Mexican national, wouldn't I be able to vote in the elections? He basically said yes. I'm like, what? in the world is going on here?
They can. You're absolutely right. And we've brought to Jay Ashcroft through our team of canvassers here. We've brought over 500 cases of fraud to him in person, in private meetings with him. And we had a deal with Jay. I shook hands with him. And I said, look, if I bring you 100 cases of fraud, do you promise you'll do a statewide investigation and make it public? And he said he would. And we brought him over 500 cases, and he's never come forward with it like he promised. I was pretty disappointed in that. We started out talking kind of about voter rolls, and this is the problem. Right at the beginning of the election, part one, that you have a whole bunch of people in your voter rolls that don't belong there. Last night, I was giving a presentation here in Pettis County, and I was showing them their own voter rolls and showing how they were churning. What do I mean by churning? People being added and removed to the rolls. Their population isn't changing much, but guess what? Their rolls have changed over 100% in the last 5-6 years. What do I mean? They've been adding and removing so many names that total number of names that they're adding and removing equals their population. There's no way that that's actually happening, but the voter rolls are churning like that. So that's kind of the starting point of elections. And why that's important, let me tell you. So I met with your head clerk a few years ago here in Missouri, head clerk of the state. He's the one who trains all the other clerks how to run their elections. And I was sitting there with Ann Kelly. She was a freshman legislator at the time. She was at my right, me, and then I don't want to use names, but he was the head clerk of the state at the time. We're in a circle around this little table in his office. And he immediately launched into a discussion about how secure your machines are in the state. And after a few minutes, I just said, look, I'm not here to talk about your machines. I'm here to talk about your voter rolls. He goes, what do you mean you're my voter rolls? And I said, well, I think your elections are being stolen through your voter rolls. He goes, what do you mean? So I brought out my laptop. I started showing him all the evidence we'd found, all the data and everything. And after about 10 minutes, I promise you, this is exactly what happened, word for word. He leans back in his chair. Yeah, Dr. Frank, we know we have tens of thousands of ballots being stuffed in our elections. Just like that. And Ann Kelly sitting next to me, she said, her jaw drops open. And she's like, what? What do you mean you have tens of thousands? And you know this? Why aren't you telling the clerks? This is a direct quote, word for word. Quote, he said, if we told our clerks how many ballots are being stuffed in our elections, the whole state would blow up and everyone would lose faith in our elections, unquote. And then for the next 20 minutes, he started bragging about all the fraud he knew about, how this county and that county and the parties were trading. We'll give you that county if you give us this county. And he was like proud of the fact that he knew where all the fraud was in the state. And we're talking like serious fraud. And this is Missouri. Come on, you guys are the show me state. You know better than that. Okay, so it was an eye opener for Ann Kelly, and it's an eye opener to anybody to know that the leadership knows there's fraud, and the first step is through the voter rolls. That's a big deal.
I just want to ask you about voter rolls because, again, I want to make sure that the audience follows everything that we're talking about. So with the voter rolls, the reason that's so important now, I got to ask you, do you think that is it's just hard to manage? Do you think it is intentional? Because I've heard people say it's intentional because if you inflate the voter rolls,
yes,
you can insert all these fake ballots. If
you got it
right. You could if you give yourself 20 or 30%, you can sway the outcome of an election. So you give yourself wiggle room, then you put in the fake ballots or the ballots.
You give yourself a credit line.
Exactly. So that is how it works. I got that right.
Yeah, absolutely. And people always saying, "Oh, Dr. Frank, we want to do a recount. We want to do recount." And I always just tell them, "You're wasting your time on a recount. It doesn't matter how many times you count the cash in the register. What matters is how many of the bills are counterfeit." So if you're recounting the same fraudulent ballots, that doesn't get you anything. And, we want to get rid of the machines, Dr. Frank. Well, okay, I agree the machines are bad. I can explain why they're bad. But it doesn't matter how you count them. They're the fraudulent ballots. And they're fraudulent ballots because you've inflated the voter rolls and given yourself this huge credit line of names that you can stuff ballots illegally with. That's when you're asking voter rolls, that's the purpose of inflating the voter rolls, is it gives you that credit line of names.
And the voter rolls are done at the county level, right? So this isn't something really.
No, that's okay. Good. I'm glad you asked me that question. That's the problem. They used to be done at the county level. They haven't been done at the county level for over a decade now. It's all centrally controlled. That's the problem. What happens is, let's say your clerk wants to add you to the voter rolls. She doesn't add you to her voter rolls. She logs into the state and adds you to the state copy of the voter rolls. When she wants to delete somebody, she logs into the state. That's the problem, is that your clerk thinks she's in charge of the voter rolls, but she's not. the state is. And so the way I prove that to her is I say, well, how many people did you add and remove last year? Let's say a county says, oh yeah, I added and removed 1,000 people. I bring out the list because I have multiple copies of the voter rolls, snapshots. And I say, you think your voter rolls only changed by 1,000? Here are 10,000 names that were added and removed, and you didn't even know. In other words, the clerks don't know what's happening. They think they know, but they're wrong because they don't download the rolls like I do.
In Missouri, have you had any cooperation from county clerks to say, okay, I want to hear what you have to say, and they come and see your presentation, they stay in contact with you, they want to make sure that their voter rolls are clean, they want to make sure they're running clean elections? Have you found people within the state of Missouri that want to work with you?
They're afraid. And I can tell you a story. I was with a clerk here in your state. I don't want to use names right now. And I was in a private meeting. They're all afraid of me, really. Basically, they're afraid of me because of the Tina Peters situation, because I'm the one that did that Tina Peters situation. And I walk in, and so they're willing to meet with me, but only in private. And so I'm sitting there with a clerk in one of your counties. And she says, Dr. Frank, I know they're cheating. I can't figure out how they're cheating. I've turned off all the automatic features I can on all the systems. I keep all these manual records. You should have seen she brought out pads full of data where she's writing everything down. She says, I can't figure out how they're cheating, but I know they're cheating. And I said, let me show you how. So we had about an hour meeting, and I was showing how they're cheating. And the blood just drains from her face. And she's like, well, Dr. Frank, I'm afraid to do anything. I've been doing this job for 29 years. Next year's my 30th year. I'm going to retire. I don't want to lose my retirement. So I looked over at her deputy who was in the room, and I said, well, what about you? You're about to take over this system. And she looks at me like, I want to keep my job, and I don't want to be persecuted like they persecuted Tina Peters. I'm afraid. So it's not that the clerks don't know. Some of the clerks know a lot more than others. Most of the clerks don't even understand what's happening, and I have to teach them. But these particular clerks were very alert that they knew something was wrong. They couldn't stop it, and they wanted help, but they're afraid of the state. They're afraid to step out. That's why I work in multiple counties. I want multiple counties to stand together. It shields the clerks from direct scrutiny. It forces the clerks to just comply with the commissioner's requests without coming under too much scrutiny. So how about that for an answer?
Well, there's a combination then of ignorance, people that don't know, and complicity of people who don't know but have too much cowardice to really bring attention to it. It's like this lady, I keep bringing her up. I need to get her back on the show. She was from the Soviet Union. And I said, when people started to recognize the entire system was fraudulent, why didn't they do something? And she said, because a lot of people make a lot of money off a fraudulent system. And I'm like, wow, I'm starting to see that now, more than ever. Now I'm paying attention to state politics. Let's move to the machines. I'm with you on the voter rolls because I understand exactly what you're saying. I think there's a divide, especially with the people in Missouri who are into the election integrity game. You know, when you say that the most important thing is the voter rolls.
Well, that's the first. I wouldn't say most important. It's all important. You die of cancer no matter which tumor you're taking out.
Good point. But they want to hear more about the machines. I'm somebody who says, you know, so long as you can adjust a software program,
sure,
you have to take the machines out of the equation. I hear what you're saying. You're saying if I count the votes through a tabulator or I count them by hand, if they're fraudulent votes to begin with, what difference does it make?
Right.
Tell me about the machines, because this is another thing that, you know, I go back and forth. There's a woman running in St. Charles County by the name of Jen Olson. It's probably the most people and the most conservative area for conservatism in the state of Missouri. So it's a big deal. Kurt Barr is the guy that's running the election.
I know Kurt well.
Right. So he's running the elections now. He thinks everything is fine and dandy.
And he's wrong.
I agree with you 100%. The other side of the fence, the Jen Olsons of the world, are like, we got to get rid of the machines and hand count paper ballots. And I agree with Jen. I support Jen.
I agree too.
Right. What is the scoop on the election software and the machinery? Because, boy, they do not want to take these things out. I know down in Florida, I believe it's in law that you have to use the tabulators to count the votes. Right. Because
most states it is. Yes.
Yeah. And they've made it law. So it's kind of in my estimation, it's solidifying potential fraud.
It's keeping them in power. That's what governments do.
It's really that much. It's that simple, isn't it? I kind of see it. I didn't see it for the longest. I'm 56. I think I recognized this in 2020. And then I'm like, okay, now I understand what's happening here.
Right.
What would you do with the machines? Would you outlaw them? Is it just the machines? Did the tabulators play? Because I've heard multiple different, and I'm not a tech guy, right? I'm just saying I don't understand it and I want to understand it. And if I can't understand it, then let's make it so that I can understand it, right? I want an 8-year-old to be able to understand it, that these votes come in, these are legal votes. We count them by hand, archaic, so we have confidence in it. What is your take on just the machines in general? How do they manipulate elections? Do they manipulate elections? Or if somebody wanted to manipulate an election with a tabulator or machine, could they? A lot of
Okay,
questions.
so the answer is everybody thinks that the machines are flipping ballots. But do you remember that graph from Michigan? And it goes up like this, and then at 11 o'clock at night, it jumps straight up and continues.
Yes.
That's not flipping votes. That's adding votes. So the machines can add votes, but what they're really doing is assigning ballots to voters. And that's why you need the credit line in the voter rolls. So the voter rolls sets up the capability of fraud. The machines enable you to know at all times who's voted and what the tallies are. And so while the elections is taking place, it's sort of like you're giving reconnaissance to anybody who wants to cheat. The machines are enabling you to cheat because you know at all times, oh, gee, we're running behind in this election. We need to stuff more ballots. Well, who hasn't voted yet? So-and-so. And we've got a whole list, a whole credit line. Let's stuff some more ballots. So that's what the role of the machines is. And counting it by hand or machine isn't the real issue. The real issue, the machines are letting the outside world know. Now, I have to tell you this story. So I was in your Capitol in Missouri, in the Capitol building, and there were about 30 people in the meeting, me and Mr. Lindell, and Kurt was one of the people, Kurt from St. Charles, and Eric Schmidt was there and his aides, and Jay Ashcroft was there and his aides, and about 25, something like that, clerks around the state. It's a private meeting. We're in this room, and in the front of the room, there were two screens. We had piped in a white hat hacker with us. And everybody was saying, oh, the machines are safe, everything is secure. And so we had the white hat hacker start showing every clerk in that room their passwords. Their passwords, not just for their election management system, but the BIOS passwords for every one of their machines, which allows us to remotely access every one of their machines. Right around them, right around the security, they don't even know this is happening. Well, after our white hat hacker had shown all the clerks their machines, Kurt Barr spoke up and he said, well, my password wasn't up there. And so Mike and he started screaming at each other. And it was really unprofessional, but that was happening. And while that was happening, suddenly the lights went off in the room. And then the white hat hacker on the screen said, did the lights just go off in your room? And everybody's like, how did he know that? Guess what? He had hacked into the state system and he was controlling the lights in every room in the Capitol and all the administration buildings. He was showing that he was in the system and in control. And then he turned the lights back on and he showed Kurt Barr his password and the machines for the passwords for his machines. In other words, they think they're secure. They're not.
Well, now
everything that's happening is available. What's that?
Wouldn't that demonstration prove to them that it's not secure? And if they know that it's not secure, wouldn't it be incumbent upon them as a public official to make sure they're secure?
Well, there you go, being logical. You should know better. Government doesn't behave in a logical way. Government behaves in the way that suits them best. And I think part of it is, it's like, I don't think Kurt Barr is a malicious guy.
I don't either.
I think he thinks he's all right. And he thinks if he does everything by the book, that everything will be all right. So that was a revelation to him. And Mike even was saying, Mike Lindell, we were right there. He brought out his checkbook and he said, look, let's open one of these machines. And they said, oh, no, if we open the machine to prove that they have modems, then we have to buy them. Because
didn't Mike say he'd buy one for him and he could check out a machine separately than that? I think somebody told me a story where Mike said he'd buy the machine so they could.
That's exactly it. That's what happened. He brought his checkbook out and said, if you want to open one of the machines, I'll buy it right now. And he brought out his checkbook. He says, I'll prove to you that these machines have modems. And they were like, oh, no, they don't. No, it says, well, I'll buy it for you. And I was right there. I witnessed this perfect. I'm right there when this was happening. And it was a screaming match. It was very unpleasant. But it's the point I'm making there is that they know the machines are hackable. They know the machines are accessible remotely, yet they are still using them. And it's like that way. And by the way, it's not just Missouri. Every state in the country is like that.
Right. Very, very uncomfortable to hear that. You know,
I'm sorry, I witnessed this, so I'm not giving you a secondhand story. I was right there.
I've heard that story. And in fact, I heard the story that the tabulator machine or whatever the machine was sent to Kurt. He never took it out of the box and sent it back. That's the way I understand the story from start to finish. And, you know, I've had, I had Kurt in, I had a conversation with Kurt. I agree with you.
I don't think he's a bad guy.
I don't think he's malicious at all.
I agree.
No, I would, I don't like to be mean-spirited to people. I sometimes get that way, and it's out of frustration and loyalty to my country and understanding can't allow your elections to be stolen. But I see an arrogance in Kurt to where he thinks because he's doing it and he's in charge that everything is okay. And I'm like, Kurt, you just have to understand that even if you're running clean elections, you're leaving the possibility for elections to be manipulated. And after 2020, your people, your Republicans, they don't want to take those chances. You got to clean this baby up. He does not want to hear it. He does. I don't think he likes me very much. And I think it's because I keep saying you've got to make elections verifiable so people have confidence in them. Even if you're running good elections, the confidence has been eroded. Clean these babies up so we can make sure that our election and our votes are being counted. Fair enough?
Yeah, even if everything is okay, you need to be able to show that everything's okay, and he can't.
Any other ways that elections can be manipulated? So we've talked about the voter rolls.
Right.
We've talked about potential with the machines. What are any other methods like the mail-in ballots, that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, the third part is mail-in ballots. That's just the first problem. That's just, you've got people on the voter rolls, and that I have a great story from St. Louis. Yeah, since you brought it, before we get to part three, let's go back to part one for a minute. So one of the things I do is I equip teams. I give them copies of their voter rolls, and we look for anomalies, and we go investigate. And we found this one lady who had registered to vote in 1964 and never voted, except one time in 2020. So we went and knocked on her door, and she voted absentee. So we knocked on her door and said, hey, it says here in the records that you voted. And she's like, no, I didn't vote. I never vote. Me and my husband never vote. And they said, we said, would you come down with us to the county clerk? So we brought her down to the county clerk, and he brought out the application for an absentee ballot from her, filled out by hand. And he brought out a copy of the registration card from 1964. And we compared the signatures. We took pictures with our cameras. We compared the signatures on the application and on the registration card, and they were a pixel for pixel match. I don't know about you, but I couldn't rewrite my signature from 50 years, 60 years ago. I couldn't. And it was a pixel for match. So in other words, somebody had access to all the signatures, which we know how that happened. That happened through Eric. You guys subscribe to this service where you give away all your signatures, all your information to an outside NGO. So anyway, someone had applied for an absentee ballot using her name, received an absentee ballot, and turned it in using her name. And so a lot of these people say, well, signature matching should prevent that. Sorry, it doesn't, because they have the signatures. And the signatures are not, the signature filter, if you want to call it that way, is not designed to screen. It's designed to pass ballots. They're looking for similarities, and they pass it. Similarities, they pass it. They're not saying, oh, that's not similar enough. So they don't, signature verification doesn't work. So your mail-in balloting is your main vulnerability here, because you have dirty voter rolls, and you really don't have a way to clean it up. You really need to have in-person voting. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah, on a state holiday, in my opinion.
I think it should be a national holiday. You and I are 100%.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, national holiday would be even better. I got a couple other questions. First of all, do you know Jim
Kozlowski?
Yeah, because he told me that. I didn't want to say his name, but I'm glad you did. He told me that story. I know that story very well. He is convinced, and he handed me a book. I had lunch with him 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever it was. And he handed me a book that lays out the Venezuela connection to our elections. Do you buy into that as well? Because I know Serbia has been mentioned, China's been mentioned, Venezuela's been mentioned, even Canada has been mentioned. Are these other countries involved? Is that through their state nationals? Do you think that's through maybe offshoots of the American government who are just setting up shop overseas so they can deflect attention? What do you think is going on with Venezuela, Serbia, and some of these other nation states that might be meddling in our elections?
Well, first of all, you remember I mentioned AWEB earlier, and that's in South Korea. That's basically the international election fraud cartel is based there. And the reason it's based there is because it's less scrutiny coming in and out of South Korea, but it's really a hub from China. And last year, I don't know if you remember, but in August of last year, maybe it was July, Kash Patel released information in public at a press conference showing that 1 million fake driver's licenses had been seized outside of Detroit, and 1 million fake ballots had been seized. I've got a slide for that. I could probably look it up if you want.
You have that. I want to see that. And by the way, just as you're looking that up, I want to remind everybody that if people want to get into the nitty gritty with Dr. Frank, we're going to have a presentation, a live stream presentation that's put on by Act 4 Missouri. And he can show you all of the work. I don't want to get into a technical. This is to get your people understanding what is going on. But if you want to see the work and how it all goes down, Dr. Frank is going to join us. I believe an Act for Missouri is coming on after you, Dr. Frank. They'll give us the date and the time. I think it's the 27th. I'm almost positive. And we'll go through all of the work. So you can see how it's done at the state level, the local level, the voter rolls. You'll be able to see everything. Saturday night, Act for Missouri says. So Saturday night, we'll do that. We'll put it on. And then you can have all of the technical questions of let's get down into the nuts and bolts of it all. And Dr. Frank can answer the questions for you. Because I think that's
where can people find it on Saturday night?
I think Act for Missouri is going to live stream it, and then we'll get out. They're going to be on next. We'll figure out how to get the information out to everybody. I think it's vitally important. I'm a big picture guy, right? I'm a guy that says, okay, now that I understand the framework of it, it makes sense to me. And then there's other people, engineers and technical people, that goes, you have to show me the process right down to the T and the I. I got to know what's going on. I want to make sure we cover both. We'll cover this because this gives you a sense of, are the elections being manipulated? I believe that they are. Dr. Frank knows that they are. Right? If you want to know how, then we'll come back on the 27th and we'll spend time with Act for Missouri and Dr. Douglas Frank, and they'll show you exactly how the process takes shape. Fair enough?
Yeah, and we have, and it's not like I'm a scientist, right? I'm a PhD scientist. I like having hard evidence. So I'm looking for this slide. I'm sorry I'm having trouble finding it. I thought I had it real handy right there. So
I blame Kurt Barr.
Yeah, 30 seconds more, I'll have it in front of you. Because I thought I had it one place and I know where to get it, but
don't worry about it. We got all day. The great thing about the podcast now, Dr. Frank,
yes,
we sometimes go 4 hours on it. It's a 3-hour show, and we sometimes go 4 hours. Even Isaiah said to me when we first started, he goes, who listens to the show for 3 hours? I said, yeah, maybe 5% of the audience. Most people just come in and out, or however they do it, or they watch whatever they want. Pieces, they'll watch an interview, this and that and the other. But the fact that we can go as long as we want means that you can look for this, and we'll get to it when we get to it. Works out
yes, I was going to.
We don't have any station managers texting us, telling us to move along, right?
Exactly. Nobody's telling me.
Yeah, that's right. Because the yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I'm sorry, I was having trouble finding it, but I'm just.
If you I've got the clip on our
of him media too, testifying with the link for you. And
Kash Patel.
Kash Patel, and it basically shows that they seized a million fake driver's licenses, and this was in October of 2020, right before the election. So they knew it was happening.
And so would this be? Let me just ask you, as you're thinking through here.
Yeah.
Would this be a situation where you have organized crime involved? Because the way I would look at this, I'm thinking if I have a million fake licenses, I would think that this would be some kind of cartel deal, right? Where you have the cartel come in, they're working somewhat in coordination with certain government officials and so forth, because they want to change the outcome of elections. They want to make sure that business that they have to protect, right?
Yes.
Whether it's legal or illegal, they have to protect it. Therefore, they need to make sure that they have the right representative in office. And they create these fake IDs in a little bit maybe of a wink and a nod. I don't know how it all works, but this keeps their person in control to input AI data centers that nobody wants, but they keep shoving down our throat here in the state of Missouri. They kept putting in flock safety cameras so everybody is monitored 24 hours a day, and their license plates are monitored 24 hours a day. This is not things that the American people want. These are things the American people are getting, whether they like it or not. And if you can't control your elections, this would make perfect sense to me. This is how you get it done.
Did you see that? You're right. Are you able to share that for us, Isaiah?
There it is.
So I first I said August and July. No, it's June. Okay, working from memory. But you got to realize this was happening, and this is only one example. I have multiple examples of this, and it's the Venezuelan connection as well. I'm trying to address this. I want you to realize I'm not making this up. This is real. And what happened is the FBI seized 1 million fake driver's licenses outside of Detroit. Guess what? They've also done this in Maricopa. They also did this in Georgia. They also did this in Pennsylvania. This is not only one case. And so, but that's what's happening now is this is all coming out. This is becoming public now. And this is real. And by the way, guess where those licenses came from?
That's what I want to know.
AWeb, South Korea. That's like the international hub for fraud. Now, how does Venezuela play into it? And I have to be careful what I say because I have access to information I'm not allowed to share in public, but I can be general. I have sat in skiff rooms with federal agents and with people who were involved in this. So this is not a secondhand story I'm telling you. I'm telling you a firsthand story. There's a reason that Trump took out Venezuela. And it's not about oil.
Elections.
Okay. 2016 and 2020, the central control was happening through Venezuela. And Trump has been like systematically trying to take out the tools that our enemies are using to take over our elections. And one of them was in Venezuela. And you notice he also cut USAID. That's not an accident. That is because that's how we've been funneling money back into our counties through channels to equip the people that are cheating our elections. So he's been systematic, and Venezuela was not an accident. That's like a personal vendetta for him.
Are we making movement because the the midterms are coming up this year? You got the primaries in the Republican Party. Well, the primaries just in general here in August. I complain about no movement being done. It's one of my biggest complaints of Donald Trump.
You're dead on. There's no movement.
Right? Let me ask you this, just from because I had a friend of mine yesterday. She said, "Rob, you're too tough on Donald Trump." I said, "Listen, I have that percentage of me that says Donald Trump is doing things behind the scenes. I'm not ignoring that. I didn't like there's some things, you disagree with politicians on.
I disagree with my wife on stuff, but we still make babies.
But for some reason, Donald Trump people, I think because they've been beaten down so much over the years by the left and the leftist media, when you disagree or you challenge some things that they believe, there's a knee-jerk reaction. I'm not anti-Donald Trump, and what you're saying gives me great hope, right?
Yeah.
Because if he is dismantling that system behind the scenes, I want to know about it. Yeah. One of my arguments about Donald Trump that I'm curious what your take on it is, I never understood why he didn't go state by state. Right. If you go to the 27 Republican states and say, wait a minute, we need to clean up our elections. Here's the process to do it. You got to get Governor Kehoe involved here in the state of Missouri. You got to get Catherine Hanaway or these people and stand and do rallies in each individual state and say, clean up your elections. We can't move forward unless we have our elections under control. At least the Republican states that are banking on my name to get them reelected. Let's get our elections in this process, in this order. And I haven't seen him do that. And I keep thinking if I was president, which I'm not, but I probably should be king at some point. Dr. Frank, I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, you'd be a great king.
I'd be a great
benevolent dictatorship.
Benevolent king, if you will. I don't know if I'd lose my head or not, but who knows? But I just think that's something that he should be able to do. The man's got endless, boundless energy. He can do these things. Why not go state to state and make this a big issue for everybody?
Well, I'm looking for his tweet from last year. He actually posted something about that. One of the things you got to realize here, I'm going to share my screen again here. You have to realize that the Constitution is explicit on this issue. The Constitution says that the states determine the manner of the elections.
Agreed.
So here we go. Let me share that. Here, I'll bring up his tweet. Shift F5. You should be able to get this, Isaiah. Yes. In fact, I helped him write it, but it's like an essay for him, which is probably because I'm a professor kind of guy. But it's he says, what does Trump say? He says, I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots. And while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines. So he's saying the list, of the 12 different ways to cheat. He's doing that. But the most important thing he said there, and people, they just kind of gloss over it. He said, I'm going to lead a movement.
Amen. That's what we need.
In other words, he doesn't have the power that people thinks he has. He doesn't have the power that people think he has. He can't. The Constitution is explicit. If he were to go to a state and say, you have to do X, Y, Z, they would just say, no, I'm not going to comply. And it would go to the Supreme Court and he would lose. He knows he needs the people to rise up. That's what I do for every day of my life. I'm helping to build that movement. So it's not that he doesn't address it. He is addressing some things. Now, you gotta hand it to him. His first term, 2017-20, he hired out of the swamp, and he learned the hard lesson that the people in the swamp didn't do him much good, did they? I mean, it was a disaster. So this term, he had a chance to serve. He had 4 years to lick his wounds and think about things. And now he's done doing things differently than he did the first time. He hired outside the swamp. He put in Pat Bondi, he put in Kristi Noem, he put in Bongino. He's bringing in people, Kash Patel, from outside the swamp. And I think he's had marginal success. Yeah, when he hired Kristi Noem, for example, I know she's a crook, and because of my work, it's from South Dakota, and I thought, before I knew who she was, I thought she was the bomb, but no, she's a crook, and she revealed that she was a crook, so he fired her. And and I knew Pat Bondi from Florida. She was a former AG there. She's an airhead. She's dumb. She's a ditz.
He was backing who was the Trayvon Martin? she was involved in that case on the wrong side of it. And I like, why is he bringing her in? People in
Yeah.
background.
I think what he was doing is he's bringing people that would do what he said. So he was kind of like trying to run it like a corporation.
Yeah.
And outside the swamp. But I told everybody right from the beginning, why did he pick her? She's a ditch. She can't do anything. And, you know, she didn't deliver. And a lot of this election fraud stuff that you're asking about, he was expecting her to pursue. That's why they went into Fulton County. And he brought in Tulsi Gabbard on that, by the way. She's, of all the people that I worked with on the federal level, she's the one I like the best. And her situation is legit. She's not bowing out because he's asking her to quit. She really has a personal situation she's dealing with. Okay. And that, to me, is a huge loss. She's the one I like the best. But, you know, Noam and Bonnie. So he needs to get, you know, Hegseth. Look at how Hegseth is kicking butt in the military. He's doing a great job. But he's been cleaning up the military, you notice, and firing generals and firing this crap. But you have to realize the swamp is deep, very deep. And so to expect, you know, the CEO of a corporation to come in and think of Trump that way and to just immediately do everything left and right, it's not reasonable. And he's been, I mean, he's only been in office for a year. Think about that. I mean, a year and a half now, and he's done a lot. There's a lot more to go. My biggest disappointment of all in him is that he let Elon get away. Because when he brought Elon in with all the technical ability, I mean, the guy's the richest guy in the world. He's got all this infrastructure, and he was saying, I'm here to help. And I'll doge all this for you. I think what happened is, you know, Elon wants to move faster than is really possible in government because it's so deep and and I think there's like frustration and friction in politics, and it kind of got messy. I would love to bring Elon back in. He was awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of people on the right with the Doge really liked what was going on there because it was exposing a lot of.
It's the right trend, right?
Dirty money.
Yeah, and so I like Elon. I don't think we agree on everything, but I like him. And we were cleaning up. By the way, did you notice right at the beginning, Vivek Ramaswamy was on that team?
Yeah,
and they booted him because he was too political and he wanted everything to be political. This is a big lesson I've learned in politics. You know, I'm a scientist. I come out of the ivory tower. I want to give you evidence and I want you to act. But politicians don't think that way. Every piece of evidence they get, how can I use this to my advantage? And I was sitting with Patrick Byrne one time, we were having dinner, and he was describing how he set up the sting on Hillary Clinton in Afghanistan.
I remember that, yeah.
He's the one who did that. And it was an $18 million bribe, and they have all the goods on her. And I asked him the simple question. I was like, come on, why isn't she hanging from a noose? Because we caught her in treason. We've got her. It's open and shut case. And he looked at me like I'm a rube, because I was. And he said, Doug, he says, we don't prosecute our assets.
Right now they own her.
They own her. So that's what's going on. There's all, and you know, and it's like, if I'm going down, you're going down, and you're going down. And it's like, they all got each other guns. It's a Mexican standoff. So it's not as simple as he just walks in and cleans house. It's complicated. And I mean, I like Trump. I think he's probably one of the best presidents of my lifetime, but to expect him to just come in and do it overnight is unreasonable. It's a mess.
I sincerely appreciate your perspective. I really do. And I appreciate the time you spent with us. We'll promote your event that you have coming up. As I understand it, the way you get finances through donation, right? Because
I don't charge anything for my work. I didn't want anybody to think I was in this for money.
Right, because that's where everybody comes from. Right? I get the same thing. I mean, I was putting stuff on social media. They said, "Oh, Robb's probably getting money from a Swiss billionaire." I said, "A Swiss? What are they? I didn't know what they're talking about."
I sure would like some of that.
Yeah, give me the Swiss billionaire money. I just
I'll take it. Yeah,
but I'll take it. Absolutely, Dr. Douglas Frank. Everybody, I appreciate your time. Appreciate your perspective on multiple different issues. We'll see you again on Saturday night. I'll be joining you on the live stream. We'll bring in as many people as we can.
Sure.
And, hope to see you soon.
Looking forward to it, brother. See you then.
Enjoy your day. All right, everybody. Dr. Douglas Frank, Isaiah. All right, we got to get to Act 4 Missouri, right. So I got to get the people that make it all happen. I got to take care of them, and I got to make sure that everybody listens now. So let's get to ECS Roofing and Exteriors. I know he's putting on a roof right now. ECS Roofing and Exteriors. This is our, especially for for residential roofing, this is the guy we want. We want ECS Roofing and Larry Evans. This is our guy. Conscientious worker. Knows the business, been around for 30 plus years. If you want to see his business, I know he's got a website coming up because our website designer for the Rob Carter Show is also working with Larry Evans on getting a website put together for him. But for roofing, siding, decks, gutters, garage doors, custom exterior metal, residential or commercial, new construction or storm damage, doesn't matter. Free licensed inspections. And what makes them different, we say it every day, but just to remind anybody who might be listening for the first time, if you're in the Missouri area and you want to know where he works at, the reason he is effective is he is a licensed independent insurance adjuster. Therefore, when he tells you insurance is going to help you replace your roof, he knows it. As he said to me when he was first talking to me, he said, Rob, just the game in roofing, this is how the game works. I like to know how industries work. He said the game is people will knock on your door because they'll see just something, on your roof that they don't like. And they'll say, hey, listen, we can get you a new roof. We'll work with the insurance companies. You give them your name and your number. And you're like, okay, you take it from here. I went through that experience. I know this to be the case. They don't know jack diddly ding dong about anything. 3 times a day, jack diddly ding dong. Right? What they do is they want to get you into their system so they can begin to work with you to eventually get your roof replaced with them. He says, Rob, I know whether the roof is going to be covered by insurance by looking at it, and I'll tell you the truth, right? Conscientious, great worker, just did a roof for one of our listeners, and it worked out perfect. They were very happy with it, said that they did a terrific job. ECS Roofing and Exteriors. If you want to reach out to them because it's time for a new roof, or you might have some hail damage, wind damage, you name it, 314-486-3567. 314-486-3567. ECS Roofing and Exteriors. And then Carrington Financial, Isaiah. Stock markets get closed in on 52,000. You see, that's just incredible what's going on with the stock market. You got to give Trump credit where credit is due. If you're in retirement and you're watching that 401k go north, you got to be happy about that. Carrington Financial, your caring.
It's only just so they can take it out of our 401ks for the data
I
centers.
hope not. Let's all be positive. Rick Babbitt, 314-671-0525. He joins us every Tuesday at 11 if you have interest in finances. I like to give him the time because, right now things are rolling. And he says when things are rolling, that's when you need to make sure you have a great advisor on your money. When things are rolling, that's when you reach out. When they go down, that's when everybody freaks. But at that point, it's too late. YourCaringAdvisor.com. My man, Rick Babbitt's 314-671-0525. Biblical principles with your money. The reason I love Rick is because he looks at it from a different angle. A lot of people just have cookie cutter information. They go to a financial advisor. They all say the same thing, or they want to sell on products where they get big commission. I know people have been through that. I know people in the business. I know how that works, right? They get a new product. They're like, oh, I can sell that to this guy and I can get a big commission rate on that. Might not be in your best interest, but it's in their best interest. You just don't know it. He's a fiduciary. He can't do those types of things. Rick Babbitt's my man, 314-671-0525. If you're nearing retirement or you're in retirement, get a second, get a third, get a fourth, get a fifth opinion. Does not matter to me. Just get the opinion of my man, Rick Babbitt's 314-671-0525. Your caring advisor.
He's also a Dave Ramsey approved, finance guy. I don't know what they call them, but I know that Dave Ramsey has a network of people that are approved by his organization to work with people that follow his biblical principles, and Rick Babbitt's is one of them.
Amen to Rick Babbitt's. Let's bring in Act for Missouri.
Before we do, got a couple announcements. I didn't want to interrupt you guys, but at Moe's, there's actually an event happening too with Dr. Frank.
That's what right?
We're getting texted about that. So that is on Sunday as well. So
Sunday.
Saturday, they're going to be with Act for Missouri on Rumble. I'm sure they'll be able to tell us more about that. But on Sunday, it says doors open at 3:30 p.m. The meeting starts at 4 p.m. at the Landmark in Washington, Missouri, Moe's Pizza.
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
Right,
and then super quick, I actually wanted to ask Dr. Frank about this, and I didn't get to. So hopefully Act for Missouri can ask him. Trump's mail-in voting order halted by judge impacting 2026 elections. This is just today. Just came out.
What was it? Say that title again. What was it?
Trump's mail-in voting order halted by judge impacting 2026 elections. So this is a few things that happened. They argued that the Republican president is trying to interfere unlawfully with states' administrations of elections. The order directed the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to compile and transmit the list of confirmed U.S. citizens eligible to vote in each state derived from citizen and naturalization records in federal databases. The judge blocked this from being implemented. Trump's order required the U.S. Postal Service to deliver ballots only to voters in each state's approved mail-in ballot list. That too was blocked. The order also directed the U.S. Department of Justice to prioritize the investigation and prosecution of state and local election officials who issued federal ballots to people deemed not eligible to vote. The judge ordered them not to do these investigations. So everything he did was just blocked by a judge appointed by Obama. Yeah.
what a system we live in.
Yeah, I thought you would want to know that, though, coming right off that. This is just, hot off the press.
It's the whole thing is frustrating. Let's bring in Mike and Amy, because when you have living legends like Amy Castro and Mike, and you put them on hold for 18 minutes, all you can do is apologize profusely, which I apologized. What's going on, Amy? What's going on, Mike?
We were enjoying listening to Dr. Frank, and we've been with him all week, so we're still learning stuff from him.
It's funny because you and I have mutual friends. There's some people that think that he's up to. I have not witnessed that. I don't really understand it. I think his information, and I spoke to him privately. So when he came into the radio station when I was at Real Talk, he did the show. We got done, and he was very enthusiastic about what I was saying, because I think he understood that I had really studied the elections myself. I'll agree if I give a ton of credit for explaining how the elections work. And he said, we got to do something. And his comment to me at that time, which is consistent with today, and I think probably why you guys are in the affirmative on Dr. Douglas Frank, is he said, Rob, we have to do it. This is a government of, by, and for the people. Everybody wants the silver bullet where somebody's going to fix the problem for them, but nobody wants to organize and fix it themselves. And I said, that's kind of I think you guys run into it with Act for Missouri. I know I do with People's Lobby Missouri. It's hard to get people organized for their own betterment. Better government.
I will tell you some good news from this week, or at least so far good news. We started this tour with Dr. Frank in Saline County and Marshall, Missouri on Tuesday night. They had around 80 patriots there. And what Dr. Frank does at these meetings that in each county, he pulls up their own data from their own county. So he's showing them their own voter rolls. He showed them the amount of churn that they had in their rolls, but then he let people say, here, give me an address. And he'd pull up the address and he'd ask them about their neighbors. And they said, well, they moved away. And he said, yeah, but did you know that they voted in the last election? Well, they moved away 10 years, so he can show people, and it's very powerful when they see that. And right after we got done in Saline County, before I even got back here to Johnson County, I got text messages. We've got our own team started. We've got 3 or 4 people. Can you get us the data? Can we get things rolling? So
he's still going.
Yeah,
Mike, he's still going. He says, this is from Dr. Douglas Frank. He just put something in the chat. He said, we didn't get to the third part of the election where there is fraud. The reporting probably cover that stuff on Saturday night. That's the last part. Cause I was looking at, he said, who, voter rolls, how, when, and who counts it and how do you verify it, right? Those are the components to a proper election. I think they're all kind of funky myself, but when I look at the elections, I go, man, I just think maybe I'm not that smart. I mean, that's very possible. I'm just not smart enough, and I want things nice and simple. I think counting ballots should be a relatively simple operation, but my Lord, there's like 50 pages of rules and this and that and the other. I'm like, American citizen, prove that, right? Put it on a paper ballot so I can track it and have a physical, something in my hand that I can refer back to, and then just count the votes by hand, because then there's no software it seems like it would be an easy process.
Yeah, but again, you do have to have local control of the voter rolls, and those need to be paper too. And because like you said, if you're counting fraudulent ballots, it doesn't really matter how you count.
Makes a lot of sense. When you put up the money, it made a lot of sense to me. I'm like, you're right, because if the votes are fraudulent, then it really doesn't matter who's even voting them, right? So you have 2 problems you got to solve right away. Is the voter rolls, so the proper people, American citizens that are eligible to vote are voting. And then number 2, when you count them, they have to be done by people so that we understand there's no software implications that might overcome the outcome. Very complicated. You guys, I got to ask you this. I know you guys have things to talk about, but I promised the audience that we would talk about Amendment 4 today. All right.
Sure.
So I want to get your
opinion. God, don't you know it's the most perfect thing to do? And we should all just immediately rush and say yes and not question it. And how dare you, you damn commie. I mean, what is wrong with you people? Yes, it's the vote.
They do come at you like that a little bit.
I know. There's not even a discussion. It drives me insane. And it's the same people. I'm like, are you people getting paid?
I know. Well, that's the thing, is it appears that way. I don't know that it is, but it appears that way, because I keep saying Rob Carter has not made up his mind just yet, because I haven't read.
Heaven forbid, right?
I mean, I'm going to read the language. I'll read the language. And if it makes sense to me, and I think it's good for the state of Missouri, I'll endorse it. If it doesn't, and it leaves loopholes where things can change with the future Congress, I'll probably say no, right? That'll be me. Now, people at People's Lobby Missouri, and I know you guys are against these amendments. Everybody that I deal with at People's Lobby Missouri, they're all against these amendments. 3, 4, and 5. They don't like any of them, right? Mm-hmm. I say the difference with People's Lobby Missouri, and even with Act for Missouri, is I want to give people the information.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you Rob Carter's opinion, right? People's Lobby, they may put out an opinion because I'll be outvoted, right? They may say, Rob, you may be for Amendment 3, we're against Amendment 3, or we're against Amendment 4, you're for it. I'll lose because they're all, I know where we're going to come out on it because they're all against it. Number 4 is the one that is very interesting to me because I remember the Mary Elizabeth Coleman. I remember the story of her sabotaging her own IP reform bill. And now they want to come back with IP reform. And the way I understand it, Freedom Principle went back and forth with me today. I did not get to finish the conversation because the show was starting. They're obviously for A3, they're for A4, they're for A5, they're for all of these amendments. And I said, the way I understand A4, this is IP reform where they want all 8 counties to have 50+1, all 8 counties, in order to put forth language into the Constitution voted on by the people. I'm watching John Grady, and just with a full disclosure, John advertises on my show, so I want to make sure people understand where I'm coming from here. But I think he makes a really good argument. Why would the people, it has to be 8 out of 8 counties, but in Congress, it has to be a simple majority. And then I thought about that, and I said, yeah, it's kind of interesting because the argument for A4 is that they don't want out of country or out of state money coming in and swaying the way Missourians vote that would change the language in the Constitution. And I'm thinking to myself, but couldn't you just as easily buy off Congress? Am I missing the argument there?
It may end up being easier for them to go.
I think it would be less expensive to buy off.
It's going to go into PAC.
You hire your lobbyists and send them to Jeff City, and instead of having to go and try to organize people and even if they're in, they're one of the misstatements that I've seen on the pro A4 side is that right now they only have to get signatures from Kansas City and St. Louis and Columbia. They have to get signatures out of 6 out of the 8 counties, whichever ones. But so to get the signatures, to get them on the ballot, that's where that starts.
I think it would be impossible, don't you?
We don't want to murder. Let me make sure you're clear here. That's the initiative petition that we have right now. They have to get signatures in 6 out of the 8 counties, a certain number of signatures to get it on the ballot to start with. Once it's on the ballot right now, it is 50%+1. And that does need to change. There's no doubt. But I think we need to teach people to think of this differently, because I think the citizens are thinking we want it to be harder to change our Constitution. And
that's correct.
That doesn't matter to the citizens, whether that's coming from an IP that's citizen driven or from the legislature. And this Amendment 4 does change it on the citizen side. I think it makes the bar too high because you have to get the majority out of all 8. I think it should be a 2/3 vote or 6 of the 8, or the best one probably out of all the years that they've been debating this. Probably the best one I heard was that it should be a majority of the House of the state House districts. That would be your best representation. That would be the most Republican way of doing this.
The majority, and how many? There's
115
or 18. Yeah, that's what I say. So the majority of the House districts, if you did it that way, it would give the people a voice. Because that is one thing that there's 2 things that I'm concerned about in the state of Missouri.
Actually, I misspoke. It's 163 House.
163? Okay. The thing that concerns me is, number one, nobody wants to pay attention to elections. So this is the argument I get into a lot of people that are very close to me. I said, listen, you get caught up in the candidates. Everybody's fighting for their candidates, and they're putting up the yard signs and the this and that and the other. And then I said, but when I talk to you privately, we're all recognizing that the elections could be manipulated. And I said, I get very uncomfortable. It's not that I don't like these candidates. I love some of the candidates that are running. I'm a big Bryant Wolfen fan. I like where Bryant Wolfen's head is at. I like Mike Moon. I like a lot of these people. But I want people to go into that chambers and say, listen, elections have got to be taken care of. And I want everything to start with the elections have to be taken care of. Because if Dr. Douglas Frank is right, and he's saying elections can be manipulated in Missouri, then wouldn't the big money that is behind A3, A4, and A5, wouldn't they use that same money to change the outcome of an election if they could? I'm just saying if they could. And if the answer is yes, then isn't that the base problem that we have to solve before any of the other issues come to the forefront? That's always been my argument. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You guys can certainly disagree.
I'll go a step further from that, Rob, because it's the perception. Because even if they can't, if the people perceive that they can, because we haven't taken the right precautions to assure them that they can't, then perception is reality, right?
Yes.
So
I agree. So before you go on, Amy, let's talk about, because I want to make sure that I understand what's going on Saturday night. I've gotten busy. I'm so bad. I got to read. I got a script that somebody wants me to read for them, and I thought it was going to be like two paragraphs. It's like a page and a half. That'll take me all night to do. I mean, you're going to stumble and bumble when you do that. So I've got to get this whole script to memory. Read the script tonight. I got a whole bunch of stuff that I was doing, so I kind of lost track of things that were going on. But I want to talk about the event with Douglas Frank on Saturday night. So just explain to me how that's going to. How can people tune in? How can people get involved? I'm going to promote it hard over the course of the next 2 days, because I think you got to hear these people out. If you disagree, agree, whatever, you got to hear what they're saying.
Well, the idea was that we had an open night while Dr. Frank was here. Yep. And there's a lot of places in Missouri that would have liked to had him come that we couldn't, of course, figure out how to get there or find a venue or whatever. And so this gives everybody in Missouri, and really from wherever, a chance. They can come to our Rumble page. We'll put it on Facebook and X, and hopefully on YouTube too, but for sure on Facebook, X, and our Rumble channel. And we'll have links and everything for people for that night. And the idea is, we know your number one issue is the elections, and you've spent a lot of time on this. And I thought having you with Dr. Frank kind of moderating it, and having people being able to ask questions in the chat. He can, talk about all the stuff, and we don't really have a time frame on that. So we can go however long you're willing to do it, however long he's willing to do it. And as long as we have people that are there wanting more information.
Well, I'll go 24 hours on it, because I think our country's being stolen from us. I really do. I look around and go, this is not the country I grew up in. It could have been fixed back then. But just the freedom erosion, I watch what goes on in social media with our show. I'm sure you guys have the same problem. Trying to get a message out on social media is nearly impossible. I recognize that. I know Isaiah recognizes it. You probably recognize it. So that's very difficult. So how do you get information out to people? That's a problem in this country. You have the borders that have been wide open for a long, long time. I can go back. I could show you guys a video of the original Bush, G.H.W. Bush, arguing with Ronald Reagan in 1976 about the borders being open. In 1976, we're in 2026, we're still arguing about the same things, which leads me to the idea that we're probably not trying to solve many of our problems. We're just using these as political tools to pit each other, pit us against each other, and nothing ever gets taken care of. So I say, if we can get the elections in order, then Mike can run, and I can get Mike in there, because I know Mike's an honest person. I get Amy in there. I can get my neighbor who's a mailman in there. I would much prefer the middle class start to take over the positions of power in this state, get up to the governors, because I think the 80% get ignored for the 20%. That's always been my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think the elections are definitely problem one, but the root of the problem is we've forgotten how to be citizens. We've forgotten that there's duty that comes with being a citizen. It's just not showing up to vote and going in and pushing numbers that you may or may not know, or you just do it based on the letter by their name. Right. And it doesn't end on election day. I mean, it says we are governed by the people. Well, that doesn't mean we turn that over completely. We do have representatives, but we need to stay on them. It's our responsibility, and we've lost that in the country, and that goes back to education and
how long do you think that's been happening, Mike? Amy, I'm curious, just from a philosophical point of view. I was not taught to be a citizen when I was a kid. When I came into high school in 1988, I don't remember anybody going, Rob, in order to be a good citizen, you got to get involved with your government. You have to understand civics. You have to understand what's going on, or you're going to lose your freedoms. Nobody was talking about that. And that's 1988. So I can only imagine what it's like now.
We're the same age group. So yeah, I feel the same way. I think it's gone over 100 years at least. And it's been a little by little. And then all of a sudden is what happens with these things.
Yeah.
Now the kids are taught to hate their country, right? It's the complete opposite. Yeah. But I want to go back
to people don't understand what the federal government's supposed to do versus what the state government. They don't understand. They definitely don't understand their county, and their county has the most power over them. All the talk about property tax. Well, that starts in your county and what your county needs to spend and raise to pay for. So
as they always say, Mike, all politics is local.
It truly is. Now that's not as glamorous as watching Fox News and seeing, the big debates and the great stingers that they throw at one another. And
Entertainment news. Amy, you were going to say something. Go ahead, Amy. I'm sorry.
Well, I just had a couple of thoughts. I mean, thinking about that point, though, like I've said before, I encourage people, we say to be citizens, but yet our own homes aren't organized, right? Your family, your marriage, your children, when I said get your house in order, that's what I mean, because we're going to be facing a huge battle. Now, get off constant scrolling, stop watching the pornography, get to church, get organized and take care of your, get ready. If this is truly happening, let's just say this is real, it's happening. What are you doing to get ready? But I see people are walking around, they're in that daze. Like Dr. Sheep said, I mean, they're in this really blank meandering around. And I always feel like the world's on fire.
I do too. And see, when you and I think all of us, right? I throw the shield maidens into that. We look at things and we become the crazy people.
Yeah.
We become the people that are black pilled. We become the negative people. We become this, this illusion that is painted of our personalities, which I know you're not, Amy. I know you're not, Mike. We're all jovial people when you meet us.
Sure. I have a great life.
I have a great life.
I'm happy. I
Absolutely.
like outside. I, enjoy a good cup of coffee. I enjoy the birds and the flowers, but there's a sense inside that I'm like, this is limited. If we do not defend this is limited and it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt bad.
Yeah. Because you have international forces that are coming into our country, and you can
look
see
at South Korea. I mean, the fact that that country just got taken over, and it's the whole spin. I know what you're saying about the narrative. We're seeing the Republicans. It's all over social media how we are now. It's so convoluted how they're trying to spin that New York's our problem.
Yeah, it's coming right around the corner. We're going to be taken over by communism and Marxism. And those are the same people complaining about it that don't do anything about elections. Like the Republicans have the power in the federal government and the state government here in Missouri. They haven't done anything. They're going to, I think they'll get the SAVE Act passed. I do believe that's going to happen. They'll tout that as a big win. But you're basically saying with the SAVE Act that in order to get 702 FISA warrants and all these other things that they want to throw into this legislation, we're going to strip your Fourth Amendment liberties from you. We're going to strip your constitutional rights away from you in order to make sure that only American citizens vote in American elections. I just think of how insane just that structure is, right? In order to your government that you pay $1 bazillion in taxes to, the federal government, I have certainly over the course of my lifetime, I'm sure both of you have as well. That government is basically saying we need an act. We don't have the votes to pass legislation that says only Americans can vote in American elections. And we have to fight for that and argue about that. It's just hard. You got to admit it's bizarre.
So speaking of fighting and arguing, just really quick, because we had some momentum going on with election integrity.
Yes.
And then I think we got a little bit maybe in our mindsets that our methodology or our angle was correct. I really want to encourage people. We need the truth and we need to solve the problem. It doesn't matter which way works. We need to make it work. So instead of the infighting about it can only be this way or it can only be that way, they both can coexist. We need to solve the problem.
We actually
put your ego aside.
Yes.
And stay focused on the problem, because we're all going to be much, much happier when the problem is solved.
That's the problem with Isaiah is I can't get Isaiah to put his ego aside. I keep telling him.
No, Mike, I'm telling you.
Man. Let's work together here. Right? You know what I'm saying? Just teasing, of course. About that, right? About the about people working together. I was going to ask you guys about this because I'm loving there's one person that continues to get in the fray that is generally on a different side of the perspective than people that we're involved with, and that's Coslow. If you're in Missouri politics and you're out on social media and you're watching what's going on with people and representatives around us, Mike Coslow, say what you want. You can disagree with, you can impugn his motives, you can say whatever you want. The guy jumps into all of these conversations and gives you his point of view. I really like that. So I look at it and I go, okay, listen, I like that Mike Coslow is willing to throw it because he knows he's in the hornet's nest, right? When he's coming out against, in our realm, he's basically going to be debating with people who disagree with him. What I'd like to see is, and I said it on social media today, I'd be curious to see how you guys look at it. I'd like to see freedom principle. I'd like to see Americans for Prosperity. I'd like to see what is it, the Missouri Sentinel, Liberty, whatever they are, Missouri Sentinel.
Show me Sentinel.
Sentinel, along with the Shield Maidens, along with Act for Missouri and People's Lobby. We all have different views of what's going on in the state of Missouri. Why in the world would we not have a public conversation where people can judge it, right? You can put it on social media. You can watch it. I think that we're looking at things from the proper lens. They are trying to create a scenario where we're all crazy. We're the black pillars. We're the people that don't quite understand everything. We're the troublemakers. We're the this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I don't want to be framed that way. Have a debate with me. Have a conversation with me. We are not the bad people. We're not going to bring people and scream and yell at you as though this is kind of how you frame us. Why don't people that want the state to be better, to have better government, less taxes, more freedom, more security, more of a constitutional government, why aren't these people communicating in the proper fashion? Do you guys understand it? Do we all have to be pitted against each other at all times? Is that the way this has to play out? Maybe it is. Could be looking at it wrong.
Well, I think it's a power structure. I mean, I think Dr. Frank's very correct when he says, it's about power. And to your point, as much as you want to give Koslow credit, do you not think that there's not a small part of him that's going, man, look at all this airtime I get. Look how many times you've mentioned his name, how great he is.
I'm not saying how great he is. I'm saying I like that he does
that
it.
He's engaging, So he's engaging. So if I'm a good politician, I'm like, hey, this is working in my favor. All I got to do is get on and do a little polite bantering with these people, and I'm going to look like I'm the good guy. And I'm the good politician. The guy worked for Ameren before he came in.
Right.
And he's...
I think he's smart to do it, but I'll say this. Here's the reason I continue to bring him up. I want to see all of them doing that.
Yeah.
I'd like to see all of them doing that because, we just made a commentary. Maybe you guys know the answer to this. All right. It was about having foreign money coming in. This is the Amendment 4 issue in Missouri. And they're saying they want to stop out of state, out of country money coming in and buying up elections, right? Because when they say buying up elections, what they're saying is they're going to put out the TV commercials. They're going to put out the literature. They're going to propagandize their point of view, and then they're going to win the election. Still, Missourians are voting for it, right? So they're going to go about it in that direction. And I said, well, didn't Ben Brown, I could have swore that Senator Ben Brown at one of my meetings said that he was responsible for legislation that took foreign money out of our elections. And now they're saying they need to pass Amendment 4 to keep foreign money out of our elections. I'm like, I just heard Ben Brown at meetings.
He did it. It was Senate Bill 152, and it was passed last year and signed in July of last year.
And then what are they talking about? Keeping money in our elections. How does that work then?
I think it's ballot candy to try to throw in something else that they can throw on top to tell people, Amendment 4 is great because of A, B, C, D,
but couldn't they do the same thing on these amendments? Could they do the same thing, saying, "Listen, you cannot come in here and start buying up ads in Missouri if you're from Delaware, for example"? Couldn't that just be the law, and then we have to settle it amongst ourselves? This is what I mean. It seems convoluted to me.
It's business. That's a business. All business people do that. They put their license in Delaware. You know that, right? I mean. Because then online you ask, well, what business does Missouri Promise do? What business are they in?
We interviewed the guy from Missouri Promise when we were at the Osage County.
I'd be interested to hear that one.
It's a very short interview, but it was very seemed like a really nice guy. I'll just basically say, I said, Missouri Promise from Missouri. And
you want me to play it, Rob? I got it ready to go.
Yeah, but it'd be great.
Let's hear it.
Isaiah coming to the rescue.
Think rain? Not me. Can you give this? Does he say his name or who?
He wants a drum roll. He likes to put it.
Oh, I'm wrong. That's the only one I don't have. It looks like. I'm sorry. I have all these interviews listed here, and I can't find the Uriah one. I know.
Tell me again who you interviewed.
Uriah Starks, I believe.
And he is.
Uriah Starks is a legislative assistant for a couple of different reps up there. He's a definitely insider guy.
What's his role with Missouri Promise?
He was representing them. He's handing out literature. And I think he thought I was trying to catch him. I really wasn't at all. I mean, I was not trying to. I was there for the Republican event. I was, I'm cordial when I'm in those environments. So I said to him, I said, "You're with Missouri Promise. Will you come over and do an interview?" He was nice enough to come over. And I forget what the first question I asked him was, but the second one was Missouri Promise from Missouri. And he hesitated. And I think he said, did he say something like, "I don't know, Isaiah"? I forget what he said.
Yeah, he said essentially, "Oh, I'm not sure, but everyone I work with is from Missouri."
That's what he said. Okay.
Oh, he's learning to be a good little politician.
Yeah. Well, it came out funny to me because I was not trying to trap.
Well, he didn't want to lie. He didn't want to lie.
His answer came out a little uncomfortable to me, and I'm like, I wonder if this guy thinks I'm trying to trap him in something. That was my original thought process. But afterwards, I thought, Well, it is kind of interesting because I was watching the Shield Maidens. They're saying $1.9 million is coming. I think Isaiah put it. There's another pack that we just talked about the other day. Where
Secure Missouri just gave 1.5 million.
Right. So you have this out-of-state money coming in that's affecting amendments that the establishment wants, but they're not recognizing that. They're more concerned about out-of-state money coming in to influence us when we vote on amendments, which I just find is I don't know.
Again, it's like I think Dr. Frank had that line today about we look at things like I show you the evidence and then
logic.
You'll think of it logically. Politicians look at the evidence and say, how can I use this in my advantage? And that's if the money's coming from a Delaware corporation that's set up and it works for me on this, then that's what I'm going to use on this. And tomorrow I can use it against on a different issue, the total opposite side. So.
I found the interview if we want to play it.
Oh,
you have it. Okay, let's pop it. So, by the way, Uriah Stark.
We're with Uriah Stark from Missouri Promise. This is Amendment 5, correct?
That's right.
Tell me why you're for Amendment 5.
I'm for Amendment 5 because the Republican Party has long believed in not taxing production, but in taxing consumption instead. And Amendment 5 would, over time, reduce the state income tax in Missouri and provide a way for that to be expanded to more of a consumption tax.
The critics say that it's going to shift the burden onto lower class, less income, people on a fixed income. How do you respond to that? Do you think that's true, number one? And if it is, do you think it's just it grows and then everybody gets taken care of it in the end? How do you see it?
I don't think that's true at all. I think that's Democrat talking points. Part of the reason that this is an interesting piece of amendment that the local tax deduction part of it helps that. So it's a little complicated to explain, but under the constitutional amendment, if a sales tax base expands, when a city brings in additional revenue, they have to return 97% to their voters in the form of reduced sales tax. So in a lot of areas, the sales tax rate could actually go down under this, which not many people are talking about that. Also in counties could choose whether or not to reduce real property tax, personal property tax, or county sales tax. So in some areas, sales tax goes down. Also, you have people like drug dealers who do not pay income tax because they're working in an illicit business. They pay sales tax. They're going to help with this. The 40 million tourists that come through Missouri every year are going to help with this. I think it's great for the citizens of Missouri. I know it's great for me and the working class, and I do not think it hurts senior citizens or lower income people like a lot of the critics are saying.
Okay, and what is Missouri? It's Missouri Promise. Where does it originate from? I've never heard of Missouri Promise before. Where does the organization originate from? What is Missouri Promise?
Missouri Promise is the group that's behind this, obviously. They're aligned with Governor Kehoe.
Okay, out of Missouri?
I mean, everybody I'm working with is from Missouri. Yeah.
Is it like a franchise around the country? Is that the kind of deal, or is it just in Missouri right now? I just don't know much about it. That's why I'm trying to figure it out.
I'm not an expert on it. I believe in this issue. I wouldn't be working on this issue if I didn't believe in it. So this is the group that's supporting this. So I am 100% on board.
You got it. That is Uriah Stark, Missouri Promise. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it very much.
Oh my God, that's great.
I wasn't trying to trap him. I didn't know anything about it at the time. That's what's so crazy about it. And then I looked back.
You're just asking good questions.
Yeah, great questions.
Well, I was trying to figure out because I see a lot of I'm skeptical of the grassroots organizations, as you might well know.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw this Missouri Promise coming in, and I was hearing that money, and this is before I knew the 1.9 million. I just started to see.
You
this
were asking an honest question.
I was just asking him, right? And then I saw the kind of the hesitation, and I remember thinking afterwards. If I'm working on politics and I don't know where my company is based, that seemed kind of odd to me. And I'm telling you, I think it was later on that night, I was looking through social media and I saw the Shield Maids. Might have even been Act for Missouri. It could have been you guys as well, saying, well, all this money's coming from Delaware. I'm like, oh, that's why he didn't want to answer the question. Now it makes sense to me.
The way I understand how they're set up is they started a nonprofit in Delaware, and that nonprofit is giving to a Missouri Promise PAC that's set up in Missouri. So they give a donation from the nonprofit to the PAC.
So people give to the nonprofit. Nonprofit gives to
so
PAC.
we don't know where the money from the nonprofit is coming from, where it starts. So all we get to see is the 1.9 million that they drop into the PAC, which says it comes from Missouri Promise.
So it's legally opaque. You can't really find out what's going on.
That's right. And Dr. Frank will explain more of this because he connects the NGOs to the political scene.
You don't know. I mean, I think this is what you would call dark money. You don't know where it's
this
coming.
is dark money. You can't see it.
You know, it's very strange that can go on to me.
Yeah.
You know, I find it odd that, you know, and I got to I'm going to start getting some politicians on the show. I've been waiting till we get a little bit closer to the primaries to bring everybody on, but I would like them to explain that to us. You know, if you're concerned about out-of-state money, are you concerned about out-of-state money that accelerates or agrees with your ideological thinking? So long as the money agrees with you, it's okay. But if it doesn't align with your beliefs, then it's not okay. Because that doesn't seem very Republican to me.
If you start looking into the PACs, and it's all legal the way, but it's the system that's bad. PACs give to different. I mean, there's 13 degrees before you can find out where the money's actually going, if you can ever figure it out. Because PAC will give to one PAC, to PAC 2, to PAC 3, to PAC 4. PAC 4 will give to these 4 politicians. You know, it's such a spider web to figure out where the money's actually coming from. And then it's the way the system's set up right now.
Do you think, I was going to ask you both, and I'm curious because you've spent a lot of time with the Shield Maidens. I know Lisa Panette's kind of been the, kind of guiding us through how legislation works in Jefferson City.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, just by observing, I know I kind of know what your answer is going to be, but maybe you can explain it just a little bit better, because Mike Koslow was on social media and he said, nobody bought my vote. This was the issue. This is the way it was presented to me. And I thought this was the stronger argument. That's why I voted against, for example, hemp farms. Okay. And I think you could always do that, right? Because there's always going to be a plausible reason for voting for anything. But do you think that there are legislators in the state of Missouri that really are just completely up for sale? If the lobbyists come in and say, we'd really like to push this, all they got to do is have a plausible reason to vote for it. And they really can just collect PAC money or deals after they get out, or lobby jobs or seats on board seats, that kind of thing. Do you sense that when you're in there as you're watching it, that a lot of these people are just, it's like Robin Williams said, all these legislators should have
the race car jacket
with the tags on.
Let me try to answer it this way. When we're there, like at the Senate, like when you and Isaiah came down and Jake came down that day, that's what we typically do. We sit there. What we often see is you sit there all day, is they'll call up a bill, a group of lobbyists will come in to the top up where you guys were at, watch that bill go through. Once they vote on that bill, that group will leave. Another group of lobbyists will come in. They're all on their cell phones, probably texting the senators down below. Now, you promised me you were going to take care of it. I don't know for sure, but I'm just saying what it looks like from an outsider sitting there all day watching this. And they come in waves and come out in waves. And then there's some lobbyists that lobby for a whole bunch of different things that are there all the time and sit there all day. But especially like the last day, it was so prominent. I mean, I got there, I was the only one. Lisa couldn't be there. Amy couldn't be there. So I went and watched the last day of session this year in the Senate. And I got there and I'm texting them, well, there really isn't very many lobbyists here. I was kind of surprised. I thought maybe this is going to be a quick day. And then as soon as they got started, the first wave came in and the whole chamber filled up top. And
how do you recognize the lobbyists? Do they have bow ties on? How do you know who the lobbyists are?
It's so easy. We call them the suits. The suits come in.
Yeah, and you see them in the halls, and right outside the Senate they have tables set up to where people can sit and talk, and so they'll get right outside the tables and talk. Flag them down in between when they come out of the chamber and going into the chamber. And
so I think what's hard for people to understand, the lobbyists represent corporations. So that's why corporations are running the show. Because the only lobbyist up there that's for the people is Lisa Panette. And they slam her for being a lobbyist, but she's like, well, who am I lobbying for? She's lobbying for us. She says that right there. Every time, I'm here for liberty and your freedoms of the people.
Even if you take the money out of it, you got these bills. They're very complicated, and nobody can know everything. So even if one of these reps is an expert in a certain area, there's going to be areas that they don't know. So the lobbyists come in and say, "Hey, let me explain this bill to you," and they sit down and that sounds reasonable, because they're only hearing their side of it. And even if you just look at it like that, that's how much influence they can have. And nobody else ever comes in to give them the other side. So there you have, there you have it. They go to vote, and it seemed logical to them. Leadership's telling them this is what we need to do. Well, then that's
and how do I was going to ask you about the lobbyists and the relationships, because I know Steve Tilley left, and then who was the former Senate Pro Tem who went to work for Steve Tilley? What's that guy's name? The boy band
Caleb
Rowden, right?
Rowden.
Yeah. So he goes to work for him, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that's kind of a that's what Donald Trump wanted to get rid of originally, right? He said, when you leave government, it should be 5 years before you can get into a lobby job, because the people are turning over and you don't have these connections to get everything done that you want to get done, right? But they still do it in the state of Missouri, obviously, because Steve Tilley hired Caleb Rowden. He made a public announcement. He was the Senate Pro Tem, very powerful guy. Then he goes to work for Steve Tilley, who has a lot of influence, former Speaker of the House. How do they ingratiate themselves with reps? Like, I'm trying to figure out how the system works. Do they just walk around, they walk into their office and they say, I represent Ameren UE. I want to talk to you about some legislation that's going to be coming before you guys, before too terribly long. Here's how we'd like to vote on it. Here's why. Is it simple as that?
Yeah,
and
like salespeople.
It's like a sales rep, right? That's
yeah,
kind of
you're going in cold. You're going in cold. Yeah, maybe you know, maybe you don't. It's a cold call, and you're like, I represent corporation, whoever, and we've got this legislation that's on the table, and I'd like to just talk to you about it, and you kind of maybe have asked your buddies, hey, is this guy? Is he pretty cold or hot on this kind of topic? And they're like, oh, it's mood. He's really tight. So you go in with your ammo, right? And you're going to sell them. You got the objections. You're going to go. They all look, sales. And I'm telling you, they stink like dirty salesmen, right? You just know. They kind of look kind of swarmy, and they're hustling. And it's like, oh my God.
Out all the time. They're always in a hurry.
Not all lobbyists are bad, because they are the people that have the information that are trying to explain issues. Because like Mike said, nobody can be an expert on all topics. So you do have to rely on your lobbyists. But their lobbyist goal is to convince you to vote for that bill. They're selling you. That's their job. That's why they're getting paid.
And they become friends with these people. Is that kind of how it works? Because when I was a sales rep, that swarmy sales rep, I became friends with almost everybody that I worked with, and I did have power, right? So I would come in. I used to tell people one of the reasons back in the shoe business in the late 2000s or late 90s, early 2000s, all the way to about 2000, I would say 2012, 13, right around that time frame. The reason people would want to hire somebody that had a lot of connections is because they could get their shoes placed, right? They'd say, if I hire Rob, he worked at Clarkson Skechers. He knows every account in the country. We can get Rob to get us in another 100 accounts if we just hire Rob. So it had nothing to do with my ability level. It had to do with my connection level, because I could get them in front of people that would buy their shoes that I had connections with. I got to think the lobby game is a very
exact same thing. Same thing. That's why the Blunt, you want somebody that's already been in office, and they know, and it's Blunt's daughter, and it's this, and they know Tilly, and everybody knows. So if you're a corporation and I'm like, I got to get this through because I need this regulation for my company, because I got to go back to my shareholders. I'm going to go pick the best lobbyist company I can get, and I'm going to look to see who those connections are to basically sell my product. Legislation's product.
You also have to understand that the people that are in office down there, there's different reasons. There are people there that went there at least for the right reasons. There's also people there that want to have a career in politics, and they want to go higher and higher and higher. Well, if somebody that they know is connected with the Blunts comes in, they're gonna want to be on their good side, because that can help you move up the ladder. And when you want to run for higher office, it'd be really good to have somebody from their organization being endorsing you or showing up or running campaign events for you. And the same thing with the farm bureaus, all those things. The Right to Life is a very powerful lobby because
I saw that
their endorsements are.
We have them too, Mike. We have them too. Do you have that one, Isaiah? Because I was going to ask you about the Missouri Right to Life, because they were at the Osage County event, and we interviewed the lady that was representing Missouri Right to Life too.
That's
Susan Klein.
Susan Klein, as a matter of fact. Here we go. We're here with Susan Klein from Missouri Right to Life. Yes on A3. She's a yes on A3. Why are you a proponent on A3?
So right now, the pro-abortion amendment in 2024 put abortion on demand all 9 months of pregnancy in our Missouri Constitution. And Missouri is not a pro-life state, but with that amendment, we became probably the most pro-abortion state in the United States. So we want to replace that pro-abortion amendment with a pro-life amendment 3 and bring Missouri back to being pro-life again, and allowing our legislators to be able to pass laws that protect women, children, and babies.
I hear advocates say the same thing, and I hear the other side says that you're saying 99.7% of all abortions, right, will be eliminated. The other side says, and I don't have an opinion, so this is not me, I'm just giving the other side. They say that if you don't put something in the language that what's the best way to put it? If somebody says they were raped, right, because it's rape, fetal anomalies, that's the exception to the rule, putting that into the Constitution. The other side is saying if you don't put something with the rape language, then young girls are just going to come in and say they were raped, and it's not going to really stop abortions in the way that we'd like it to. Do you see that as an issue, or would you like to clean up that language, or how do you see it?
There's accountability in the language.
There is.
Right. Yes. And, because those that are performing the abortion have to report and they have to be accountable to the Department of Health. And also the legislators are going to have oversight over that. So, and they'll have, if there's an abuse of the system in the rape and incest exception, then the legislators are going to pass a law to fix that. So we need to protect as many babies as we can right now. And then we need to continue fighting to protect every baby, because life begins at conception. And those of us who are pro-life know that, and we want to protect all the babies and all the moms. So we've got to come back and fix it. There's protections right now and accountability in the language to help make sure that that's not abused.
Do you think this is the first step? Do you think this is a really good move in the right direction, and that later on legislators will move closer and closer to a complete ban on abortion and get it right down to conception?
We are working to get back to where we were before, when Dobbs was passed and Roe overturned, as Roe was overturned. So yes, it is the first step. And we did do polling. We looked at whether we could do a personhood, whether we could do, without the rape and incest exception, and just fatal fetal anomalies and the life of the mother exceptions. And those don't pass in Missouri right now. We're not as bad as other states. But if you put a personhood out there right now, it would only pass like at 44%, and that's not a win, because the other side would win. So we can't do that right now, but this is our first step to getting back to a ban on abortion in Missouri.
Thank you, Susan. Missouri Right to Life, Susan Klein. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, now the reason I like that one is because when she said the language was there, I was told many times from multiple different people.
There's no language there.
She couldn't, but she couldn't tell you the language.
We even talk to people on the other side, and they say that's something that the legislature can add in later, and the chances of that happening, if they can't do it now, what are the chances of them being able to do it later? Originally, when the legislation that became this Amendment 3 was going through, that was originally there, and several of them told me, yeah, we're going to have the rape and incest, but we're going to have it. They have to have a police report. It has to be a medical examination on rape and incest. And then they took it out, and then they told us originally when we were running around asking why did they take that out, they said, well, we won't be able to get it past our caucus.
I heard that. Yeah.
And now on the polling, we've been asking to see that mysterious polling that Right to Life claims they have for over a year now, and they won't even release the percentages that they show that this will pass by. They won't release any of it, and I believe the reason is because it probably shows that, yeah, they get a gain from having people that want the exceptions in, but they lose a lot more from the people that will never vote for an exception, and they know it's going to fail. And one more note on Susan Klein. It's been 2 or 3 years ago, Mike Moon, when one of the first times he presented his personhood amendment, Susan Klein came and testified against it and killed it in committee.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And we have the video of that in one of our videos on our A3 stuff, where we show her coming in and saying that she opposed that personhood bill. And if that had passed back then, we would have never had Amendment 3, because it would have been, we would have equal protection for the unborn from conception. And that's not uncommon.
What was her reason for testifying against it, Mike? What was her reason? Do you remember?
Well, she didn't give a reason then. She just came up against it. She said, we oppose it. And there was another group. Do you remember the group's name that was?
I don't.
It was another pro-life group that also testified against it. We had one guy that came in that testified for Mike Moon's amendment that gave great testimony, but the committee killed it then. Basically, because Right to Life, if Right to Life says no, we're not going to do it, those guys aren't going to go against Right to Life because they want those endorsements that you're seeing everywhere right now. And it's not just Missouri Right to Life. If you go out and search, you'll find that Right to Life groups all over, the National Right to Life group, they are killing personhood bills all over the country.
Why would Grace Church, I know a lot of people that listen to the show go to Grace Church. That's where my family goes to church, and I like Grace Church. This is not, I don't want to hurt Grace Church, but I never understood, and I still don't understand. Kate Sickles has some power there. She is for A3. Adam Schnelting was trotted out in front of the congregation and got to promote A3, but would not allow Mike Moon to speak on the personhood bill at that church. It's never sat well with me, and I don't really understand it. And it just makes me wonder what the coalitions are, what the reasoning is. Nobody can give me an answer. I've sent messages into Wes, who's one of the pastors up there, and said, why was Mike Moon not able to speak? And I don't get any answers back. Do you have any sense of what the coordination is there between the churches and A3? Because I'm looking at it from the church's point of view, and I'm thinking, why would I want to promote legislation? I understand it's saving babies, but I would think the purity of the church would far outweigh, the political aspects of this particular bill. Why would you restrict? That's what I'm thinking. I am, and I don't want to believe that, but I'm starting to wonder. Why in the world would they?
Well, most churches have debt; they can't lose half their congregation. People will leave, if they say abortion is wrong, you cannot have one. It's against God's rules. That's it. You don't think there aren't going to be people that don't get up out of that pew and say, "I am never coming back to this church."
And I can tell you, when the Amendment 3 that's on right now that changed the abortion law to where we have abortion up to birth, that's in the Constitution right now. When we were fighting that, we were trying to get the churches in our area involved in it. And I heard that more often than not. They said, well,
it's going to upset
people. And, we really just don't want to go down that road. And I think it is for the reason that Amy said. They get in debt with building their buildings up and all that. And they're worried that people might not show up on Sunday.
I do get the feeling that has, at least in part, has something to do with it. Skip Zimmer says, why not get Ron Tucker? He's the long standing pastor at Grace Church. And I really like Ron Tucker. He says, why not get Ron Tucker in an interview and talk to him about this? And we've tried.
And I think there's a fear because they say they're nonprofit, and that the nonprofit, if they violate these rules, that they're going to lose their nonprofit status. But I can't remember the organization because we handed out.
We put that all together. We put packets together for churches that showed them exactly where the legal lines were,
what they can do, what they can't
do. So we tried to appease that worry on them, and we still didn't get.
We got 1 out of 12 or 2 that was willing to have a table or just be able to hand out information.
I just had, I guess the guy's name was Kerry Wells. I don't know if you know that name. So I was doing a.
Kerry and I are good friends online.
I bet you are. I have a feeling
we're really good friends.
I think he's vice president of Freedom Principle.
Yes.
And I don't know who Kerry is. I'm not negative toward Kerry. I just don't know Kerry Wells, but he got into a chat last week when I was doing an interview with Nadine at 9. This Nadine that does the show at the lake.
Yep.
And he got into that, and he said that Wes would not take on a debate with him. Now, I was told from Lisa Panette that he wanted to do the debate. She got in touch with me about trying to set up the debate. This is when I was on Real Talk. And I'm like, well, that doesn't ring true to me the way I understand it. So I was back and forth with Wes yesterday, and he said that the restrictions that were put on the debate from Kerry Wells was ridiculous. And
they were unreasonable.
Yeah, they were unreasonable under the scenario.
He wanted to have
that he debates. Now Kerry Wells is saying, Rob, get in contact with me if you want to facilitate the debate. So it does appear that I don't think Kerry Wells is going to want to mess around with Freedom Principle. I don't know why they want to play games with me. It certainly can't help their cause. But he says, I'll do the debate if you guys can facilitate it. Basically, it's what he's telling me on an email. And Wes said the exact same thing. So it looks like in August, before the primaries, maybe we'll have a debate. And I think that's all
that's great. That's what I know. Wes has been trying to do this since early January, trying to find somebody that will debate on this issue. And not necessarily have to be a regular debate, but just a forum where both sides can be there.
Yes.
And present, and people can ask questions of both sides. And
exactly. I think when people think debate, they think it's going to be a heated argument.
Yeah.
And, I had one of my buddies, he said, it might have been Isaiah. I can't remember who it was. Somebody said, Rob, don't call it a debate. Just call it a conversation. I want to have a conversation with you.
Oh, yeah, that was me. I'll take credit.
It was right. Because debate has the feel like people are going to get mad at each other. No, I'm not even listening to what you say because I got my ready-made answer to come back, and I know that point. I'm trying to win a debate. I always look at it. The reason I'll debate anybody is because I'm not trying to win a debate. I'm more coming up from a point of curiosity. I want to understand what's
Let's have a policy discussion.
Yes, let's hash it out. Let's figure out what's going on here. Very interesting. The last thing I want to ask you about is the agenda moving forward with the Republicans. What do you think the agenda is going to be in next session? Are there key components of the platform within the Republican Party that you think are going to be brought to the surface? Do you think they will finally start talking about elections? Do you think they are going to pass the legislation that would allow live streaming in the Senate? Are there things that you're looking forward to? Do you think they're going to pass them? I always go back to Bryant Wolfen. You know, Bryant Wolfen is my guy in the House. And I was standing in the rotunda with him, and he said, Rob, and I just asked him about what was going on in the House. He said, nothing good happens here. Yeah. This is really, can you stop bad legislation? We're not passing good legislation. We're not passing constitutional legislation. He goes, that's why I'm always a no, is I'm just trying to stop these things from happening. So when I hear that, I'm like, what do I have to look forward to if the guy that I have the most respect for in the House, at least, which is Bryant Wolfen, if he's telling me nothing good happens, well, what's the agenda if we're not passing good legislation, according to him? Do you see anything on the horizon that's getting you excited?
It's all going to depend on the primaries, and we have a chance to get, and of course that's still a crapshoot too, because we can think people are going to do good, and they get in there and they get in the system, and the system corrupts them, or they fall victim to the system, however you want to say it. But there are 7 or 8 potentially good senators that are running that they won't be able to get good stuff through on their own. But if we get 5 of them, we can stop a lot of the bad stuff. Like, you know, when I go back to Bill Eigel when he was in the Senate, and he always called himself the Goldie. And his whole thing was, you know, I may not be able to get stuff through on my own, but I can sure stop a bunch of bad stuff. And Lisa, if you ever get a chance to ask Lisa Panett, she has the record of all the bills that she knows personally that Bill Eigel stopped that would have been horrible for Missouri. And those are headlines you don't get to see because they never got anywhere because of him. And we also saw when he was here the filibusters, and he brought other people. He made other people stronger. And hopefully we'll have that again, because right now this last 2 sessions in the Senate, the lobby corps or Missouri Inc., as you like to call it, Rob, pretty much had their way with the Senate. And if they have their way with the Senate, they pretty much have their way with the House.
Yeah, and this is a long process. So I think if we went a couple sessions with them getting nothing done, I think that would be really good. It would allow us, some people, to just kind of settle, and for everybody's going to be like volleying, right? Because it's on hold. Nobody's really winning. And now we are going to have some discussions. And then hopefully we could get maybe things more on track election wise.
Look, if we don't say no to these people, we're going to continue to get all these bad choices. If you look at most of the amendments, we want IP, we want to change IP reform. We want to make our Constitution better protected. They give us 2 lousy options, either to vote for a lousy bill or to do nothing. The same thing with Amendment 3, with Amendment 5. You know, people want to cut the income tax, but we don't want to replace it with another tax. I mean, and if we keep saying yes to them, we're going to keep getting the same bad choices and never get the good choices.
Do you guys have any people running that you are willing to endorse? Have you put out endorsements yet? Are there people that
we're not doing any endorsements?
You're not doing any endorsements. I think I'm going to do some this time, and I'm. It's funny you say that, because I have not wanted to give endorsements because I wanted to stay objective. I may change my mind on that. I think I want to have a get together and say, oh, look, because there's not many, to be honest with you. Even some of the people that I've had on the show that I like, I look at it and say, listen, are you going to go there and really stand up? You talk about Bill Eigel. I look at Bryant Wolfen the same way. I want people to go up there and really challenge their own party. I don't want to hear the Democrats this, the Democrats that. I'm like, they don't have any power. I'm sure we can point out all of the ills of the Democrat Party, but they don't have any power. Who cares?
It gives them an excuse for failure when they do that.
Which is what Massey said. It's failure theater up here. We have to create failure theater. And he goes, and I don't want to be a thespian in your failure theater.
Play. Yeah.
One of my favorite lines. All right, guys. Anything else that's on your agenda today?
Well, we're going to be in Jackson County tonight with Dr. Frank. So we're in Blue Springs at the First Christian Church.
Will you send that to Isaiah so we can post it? And then
that is 701 Northwest 15th Street, Blue Springs, Missouri. And then tomorrow night we'll be in Kingsville Baptist Church, and that is at 203 80 Raddick Street, Kingsville, Missouri.
All right, you guys got to send us that. Well, there it is.
I think it should be. Yep, there it is. There it is. So First Christian Church, 6 o'clock, Kingsville Baptist, and Saturday Night Live, which I think that's Saturday Night Live. Dun,
I like that.
dun, dun. Yeah.
And then of course Sunday we're going to be at Moe's Pizza, and we look forward to that.
Is that We the People putting that on?
That is Tammy's group out there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. All right, you guys. Great to see you as always. Of course, if there's any information that breaks, just let us know what it is. We'll get you guys on as fast as possible. I will probably, I'll probably talk to you before Saturday.
We'll get in touch. We'll probably at least before we go on to give it everything a test run and get everything in order. But
deal.
But it should be a good way to have a good conversation about elections.
Perfect. Mike Compton, Amy Castro, act4mo.org. We always say,
take care, guys.
You want to give your money somewhere, it's act4mo.org. They're doing the work. You can make determinations on your own, but they're going to give you all of
this week. Donate to Dr. Frank.
Donate
There's a link on the website.
Bring it on. All right, you guys have a great day. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Isaiah. Good information coming out today. I like this. I was told last night from a friend, they said, Rob, you got to do more local politics. That's probably true. RAK, R-A-K, customcoatings.com. Isaiah, are you aware of RAK Custom Coatings?
Yes. Sorry, I'm getting all this set up for you.
I love to do that to you. I know your mind's everywhere trying to produce the show, and then I whack you real fast. It's just my way of moving the show along, if you know what I mean.
That's the fact, Jack! That's a fact, Jack!
Will you pop them up when you get a chance? Because I want to get RAK Custom and Grace. And then do you have just a couple minutes to run just a couple other things I want to get out of the way
I
today?
do not, unfortunately.
All right, well, let me get the advertising out of the way today then. Okay. I got a lot of advertising going on here. Oh my goodness. We have a lot to get to, Isaiah.
Oh yeah.
RAK Custom Coatings right there. RAK Custom Coatings, RAK customcoatings.com. This is our good friend Rich McQuay. Again, if you have industrial space, if you're somebody that makes decisions on industrial space flooring, RAK Custom Coatings, best in class. 636-398-5040. You see the schools, any industrial space. If you are somebody that makes decision on industrial space flooring, then you got to look up RAK Custom Coatings. They've been in business since 2001, family, locally owned and operated. Rich McQuay, as he likes to say, they install industrial strength, long-lasting coatings built to handle anything your home or business can throw at them. And from garages to commercial spaces, RAK, R-A-K, look at those pictures. Those are so fantastic. RAK Custom Coatings delivers tough, beautiful finishes that last. If you want to reach out, get your garage flooring done, because that is where I'm at. I think the garage flooring is, boy, does that make a difference the way your home looks. I
wonder if you could do like the like entrance ways of large houses and stuff like that. You know, when you walk into a grand house and they have the nice flooring right there, and the
I don't know if that would look right. What I understand about it, I don't know if that would look right, but he can answer those questions. That I'm not sure of. RAKcustomcoatings.com. I always say there it is for a bathroom, right? So bathrooms, garages. For me, it just changed the entire look of my home when you open up the garage and I had this beautiful flooring in there. It definitely
look at it right there.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. It's what it looks like, right? RAK Custom Coatings, RAKcustomcoatings.com, 636-398-5040, 636-398-5040, RAKcustomcoatings.com. And then Jones Air and Water. Just got a message from Marissa earlier. She said, Rob, you got to get in touch with me. Your cheeks are looking just a little bit chubby on screen. I said, wait a minute. The camera adds weight, Isaiah. Everybody knows that.
10 pounds.
I'm svelte and looking good, although my wife was making fun of me yesterday as well. So I must start losing some weight, Isaiah. When I get to 200 pounds, I just look like I don't understand it. It looks terrible on me. I need to be about 185, and I'm about 195 right now. JonesWater.com for all of your air and water filtration needs. 636-899-1040. Dehumidifiers. You said, Rob, you got to talk about dehumidifiers, especially in Florida and Missouri. You have that humidity. He said it just drives up your energy cost. If you have a home dehumidifier or a business dehumidifier, he goes, you can set your temperature at a higher level, so it can be at 75 instead of 73. He said it'll feel just as good. It will feel just as cool, I should say, but with that crisp, clean air. Dehumidifiers for your home and business, something everybody should pay attention to. And as always, if you have a home and you're drinking tap water, how can you be drinking tap water in 2026? Makes no sense to me. You must have air and water filtration systems. Isaiah.
Not symptoms. We don't want symptoms, right?
I can't be butchering these things for my man Everett Jones. He's like, Rob, nail it for me. Why you bumbling and stumbling on my library? It doesn't make any sense. For all of your air and water filtration needs, you'll be the filter, or you'll buy the filter. JonesWater.com. Air, water, dehumidifiers. They have it all for you. If you want to do business with Everett in Missouri, St. Charles County, Lincoln, Franklin, Warren, and St. Louis, Jefferson as well. And if you want to go to the east side, if you live on the east side, if you do business on the east side, Madison, Monroe, Jersey, and St. Clair. JonesWater.com, JonesWater.com, 636-899-1040. And then we got to get to Grace Halling. GraceHalling.com, GraceHalling.com, GraceHalling.com. Again, you're going to see the trucks for Grace Halling all over St. Charles County. Why, Rob? Why do we see these trucks all over St. Charles County? Because people like doing business with Gary Schneider. It's that simple. He says, Rob, but for the grace of God, I would not have such a thriving business. Let me tell you just a bit about it. Been around since 1998. All things rubbish, all things trash, whether it be commercial or residential, doesn't matter to him. They pride themselves on outstanding customer service and competitive pricing. If you're a commercial customer, 2, 4, 6, and 8-yard dumpsters. Been around since 1998. If you're a residential customer, always remember trash, recyclables, yard waste, and bulk pickups. All things rubbish, all things trash. GraceHalling.com, GraceHalling.com, GraceHalling.com. Then we got to talk about him and give him an extra live read this week because John Grady is running for office. And I want to throw out another plug for my man, John Grady, slaphappyhemp.com. Again, he's basically out of business he's got to get rid of all of his hemp products. I think until November, he's going to be moving through hemp products at a great price. If you're a person who buys hemp products, here you go. They're at Highway 50 in Rosebud. Great people. You can sit out and have a nice cigar, maybe a little drink out on his patio. I had a great time out there. Slaphappyhemp.com. Slaphappyhemp.com. Get out there. It's the end of the road for these hemp products. It's all going under. Reach out to them at 636-388-8771. 636-388-8771. Again, if you are somebody who uses hemp products for pain, what have you, get in touch with slaphappyhemp.com. Our good friend John Grady, 636-388-8771. And then I saw Debbie Gina saying she'll get a hold of ECS Roofing. This is the infrastructure we're looking for. Our realtor is Debbie Genis. EXP Realty, Debbie Genis. She's been around this business for 28 years, so she's stable. She understands what to look for when you're buying a home. She'll get you into the right house. She'll help you sell your house. You know how it works. You got to have somebody that is reliable. If you don't have a friend in the business, you do now. Debbie Genis, 314-482-9205. Deborah.Genis@exprealty.com. She's in the insurance game as well for over 14 years. So what we're talking about here is somebody who understands the ins and outs of both insurance and real estate. She's been around in the real estate game for 28 years, the insurance game for 14 years. So it's somebody that you know has weathered the storm, literally weathered the storm in real estate for 28 years. Debbie Genis, 314-482-9205. Have her come out, take a look at your house. If you're looking for a home, you got to get a hold of Debbie Genis. And then finally, actually, you know what? Let's give Kit a shout out. You have Kit on there? Kit Speed Shop? Was that a curveball? I don't know.
All of these are curveballs. You didn't have any of these people on the list.
I didn't?
No.
Well, I'm taking advantage of your brilliance. There he is, Kit Speed Shop. This is transmission repair. He does it on planes. He does it on old classic cars. Kit's Speed Shop. This is what he writes. Kit does unique and classic transmission work in Sedalia, Missouri, in Hangar 5, and is well known for his vast experience and knowledge when it comes to transmission repair. And I know a lot of people. My father-in-law used to do the old car thing, the classic cars, which are absolutely dynamite, and they always need some form of repair. This is a guy that does business with us. We like him. Kit's Speed Shop in Sedalia, Missouri. You can reach them at 660-909-6000, 660-909-6000. Kit's Speed Shop, again, does unique and classic car transmission work in Sedalia, Missouri, in Hangar 5, and is well known for his vast expertise and knowledge when it comes to transition repair. And then finally, when it's lunchtime, Isaiah, and I'm starving, I'm about ready to eat my arm. Who is it? It's Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri. Great people, great food, great environment, family atmosphere. Been around for a long time now. God owns the place. He just works there. Great pizza and salad bar, chicken wings, sandwiches, and the best ice cream I've ever put in my face. I love their ice cream. It is Moe's Pizza. Everybody knows Moe's Pizza because it is a landmark in Washington, Missouri at the corner of Grand and 5th Street. They're known for being a family business, known for great food, known for great environment. And if you have any kind of gathering, and you're in the Washington, Missouri, or Franklin County area, they have banquet space available for birthday parties, anniversaries, political meetings, and Bible studies. It is Moe's Pizza. When it's time for lunch, get there. Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri. All right, Isaiah.
Or you can order on DoorDash now.
You say that every time. I should write that down. No, I'll let you do it.
It's pizza, so if you can get delivery now, that's like what people prefer.
Yes, it works out great. Anything else that we need to cover? There's some other things I want to cover. We'll get to them tomorrow. Not that big a deal. What are you up to? What are you in a hurry to do?
I got to go meet with the city administrator and the fire battalion chief.
Your alderman gig is getting in the way of the Rob Carter Show. We're going to have to talk about this, right? Because people like the 4-hour deal. Again, right before we leave, if you can like and share maybe one more time before we take this baby out, one more share. I thought that was a really good show today. I enjoyed the conversation.
That's what people were saying.
Yeah, and I love when
great info.
Yeah, I like the fact that we had those. I give you credit because Isaiah said, "Rob, we're here. We're in Osage County. Go out and get these interviews. We're right here." So we interviewed everybody, didn't we? I think
Rob hopped right into it. I put him in the hot seat. I said, "Hey, let's go. Let's do these interviews." And he said, "What do I do?" I said, "Oh, you're just going to walk up to them and ask them."
He did. He handed me the microphone, and then he took his right foot. He kicked me right in the back of my bottom, and he pushed me toward the people he wanted me to.
You need to go talk to Rick Bratton first. That's what.
Yeah, Rick Bratton. We got Rick Bratton. I've been a critic of Rick Bratton and Tom Estes, his chief of staff, for a long time. But we had a conversation with them. I think we got a conversation with a lot of people. The one
and they
person
were cordial. I do have to give them that.
Everybody was
very cordial. Yeah,
everybody was. I want to get this guy, this Patty. He sent us his information. I don't know how to get. Maybe you have it, Isaiah, if you can.
I forwarded you the email. His cell phone's in there. We can reach.
And I'll get a hold of him, and maybe we'll have him on either tomorrow or early part of next week. I thought his speech was really well thought out. One of the best. Guy too, by the way, he shook my hand. I'm like, good Lord, because he's a big guy, and he's been in the military for a long time. Just came across to me as somebody who I think could actually be really good. Right. Yeah. So that was what was his first name? Do you remember?
Brad Patty. One of the things that I really appreciated about him is that, people get nervous when you get up there and speak in front of people. And sometimes they're like, oh, I can't let any silence be there. I can't take a drink of water. Like they get in their own head. Right.
Exactly.
They call him up. He doesn't grab the microphone and start talking nervously, kind of like everyone else. Not that they were nervous, but they just kind of went into their spiel. Right. He's like, okay. He goes and he grabs the lecture.
Yeah.
Gets over there. He's like, oh, I got some notes and getting ready.
That's military, baby. Nice and calm. Nice and calm.
I was like, man, he was calm, cool, collected the entire. I didn't even know this guy, so it's not like
I didn't realize that there was like 4 or 5 guys all vying for the same position, right? So they were. I think they were all running for U.S. House, and that was Bratton and Patty.
It's the new district to get Emmanuel Cleaver out.
Right.
Yeah, that's the goal of that new district there.
That was an interesting evening, I must say. All right, everybody. That's all we got for you today. Tomorrow on the show, I've got Dr. E. Michael Jones. I've had him on multiple times. That is going to be a great interview. This is a guy that he's
polarizing.
He's a Catholic. He has very wise, in my opinion, political worldviews. A fascinating guy, very well read, brilliant mind. He'll be on tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So that's E. Michael Jones tomorrow at 10. Dr. E. Michael Jones tomorrow at 10. And we'll talk about all the things that are important in your world. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on The Rob Carter Show.